Council meeting, the regular meeting, August 18th, 2026. We're glad you're all here. Thanks for being here. We will open this meeting with the land acknowledgement. The land that Eureka rests on is known in the Wiyot language as Jirojiji. Past actions by local, state, and federal governments remove the Wiyot and other indigenous peoples from the land and threaten to destroy their cultural practices. The city of Eureka acknowledged the Wiyot community, their elders both past and present, as well as future generations. This acknowledgement demonstrates the city's commitment to dismantle the ongoing legacies of settler colonialism. And with that, can we get a roll call, please?
Mayor Bergel,
Here.
Councilmember Castellana,
Here.
Councilmember Moulton,
Here.
Councilmember Bauer,
Here.
Councilmember Fernandez,
Present.
and Councilmember Contreras de Loche is absent tonight.
Thank you. And would all who care to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, and City Attorney Black, do we have a report out of closed session?
Mayor, no reportable actions were taken in closed session.
Thank you. That moves us to our very first proclamation for Overdose Awareness Month. Mr. Harrison, would you like to come forward and receive that? And that'll be read by Councilmember Moulton. Right up to the dot. I'm going to raise it right up there. Yeah, there you go. All the way. Keep going.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for being here. City of Eureka Proclamation in recognition of International Overdose Awareness Month, August 2026. Whereas the City of Eureka recognizes that substance use and overdose have profound impact on individuals, families, friends, neighborhoods, first responders, healthcare providers, and communities throughout Humboldt County. And whereas the City of Eureka recognizes the importance of creating a community where individuals struggling with substance use are met with compassion, dignity, support, and meaningful opportunities to access treatment, recovery, and other services. And whereas the City of Eureka recognizes the important work of local healthcare providers, behavioral health professionals, treatment providers, recovery organizations, first responders, public safety personnel, community organizations, and individuals working every day to prevent overdoses, save lives, and support people and families affected by substance use. And whereas International Overdose Awareness Day, observed locally through community events, including a gathering at the gazebo in Old Town Eureka on Saturday, August 29th from 12 p.m. to 4 p.m., provides an opportunity to remember those whose lives have been lost to overdose, acknowledge the grief experienced by their families and loved ones, raise awareness about overdose prevention, and recognize the continuing efforts of communities working to save lives. And whereas the City of Eureka encourages community participation in remembrance and awareness activities, including attending local events and joining in efforts to honor lives lost and support those impacted by substance use, the City of Eureka further encourages local businesses and community members to show their support by illuminating their storefronts and buildings with purple lights during the month of August as a visible symbol of remembrance, awareness, and solidarity. And whereas recognizing August as Overdose Awareness Month and August 31st as International Overdose Awareness Day provides the City of Eureka an opportunity to affirm its commitment to overdose prevention, community education, harm reduction, treatment, recovery, and the preservation of human life. Now, therefore, I, Katie Moulton, on behalf of Mayor Kim Bergel and the Eureka City Council, do hereby proclaim August 2026 as International Overdose Awareness Month in the City of Eureka.
Absolutely. First, I would like to extend my deepest gratitude to our council and our mayor and our entire city for being brave and bold enough to continue to support the efforts to prevent overdoses. Our city is no stranger to the dangers of addiction and overdose, and therefore I thank you for being so tirelessly committed to helping those folks that need our help the most. We, as a city, are strong enough and creative enough to continue to make our small town efforts large enough to be seen across this state. I promise you, this year, if you come join us on Overdose Awareness Day, out at the gazebo, you will see a lively, lovely bunch of individuals all working towards helping our city stay healthy and prevent overdoses. And again, I extend a level of gratitude on behalf of everyone who has lost someone due to an overdose, and gratitude on behalf of everyone that is still here today because their overdose was reversed. Thank you so much, City and Council.
So also in my mayor's reports, I wanted to report out that HCOE, Humboldt Office of Education, had a delegation from Taiwan here recently, last weekend. It's called Global Classroom Connect, and they have partnered with Alice Burney, Lafayette, currently, and some different charter schools, Trinidad, Redwood Coast, Montessori, different schools, so that we can build those cultural partnerships and relationships. They invited me to be the ambassador to our city, so I got to go out with Mayor Huang on Sunday all day. We went to the zoo. We fed the bears at the zoo, which was totally, they love that. They just totally love that. Colby Smart, who is the person that put this whole thing together, he took us all to the Ingomar for lunch. We went to Dick Taylor Chocolate, which they also loved. And then, of course, we went on Matticat, saw lots of great wildlife and that type of thing. Yesterday, we had a ceremony, a friendship ceremony, and I just wanted to read you the proclamation that was signed by both mayors, because I think it's really fitting, in working together and in community. So this is the City of Eureka Proclamation in recognition of Proclamation of Friendship, August 17th, 2026. Whereas the cities of Eureka, California, and Chiayi City, Taiwan, wish to establish an informal relationship to develop civic and people-to-people links. And whereas the cities of Eureka and Chiayi City, Taiwan, wish to promote exchange of cultural, educational, economic, and social information with international communities. And now, therefore, the mayor of Eureka and the mayor of Chiayi City proclaim their cities as friendship cities. And it's signed by myself and Mayor Huang from Taiwan. They're lovely. We learned so much while they were here about this whole program, this educational program. I'm going to post some of it. I did post some of it, but I'll post some more of it on my socials. It's been going on for a while now. They've been doing exchanges, going to Taiwan. Taiwanese have been coming here and working with our local students, because that's how we can continue to grow in effectiveness in community. So I really appreciated that opportunity and the invitation from Dr. Colby Smart. So with that, we will move on to presentations. Cottage Industries in Eureka with Sarah West.
Okay. Good evening, Council. My name is Sarah West. I'm a project manager within the Economic Development Division. And tonight I'm going to talk to you a little bit about cottage industries. There we go. Oh. Okay. So we dove a little bit into the data we have available. I focus specifically on business license data because that is the easiest available data and also our most in-depth data. So I pulled business licenses from 2023 through 2026 because not everybody remembers to renew their business license every year. And I wanted to capture, I think, the broadest group possible and get a picture of the different industries that we might have here. I also only focused on businesses that stated that their business location was within the city of Eureka. So there are lots of folks who get business licenses whose business location is not within the city of Eureka, but they do business in the city of Eureka. So this is just solely focusing on folks who are within the city of Eureka boundaries with their physical location for their business listed. So that data pool brings us to approximately 2,300 unique licenses that I zoomed in on and looked at what was going on. And then to look at cottage industries, there are many ways that you could slice that and talk about a definition of a cottage industry. The definition I used as a starting point for us tonight was looking for very small operations and this was the primary point, that their address was a residential address, or it was a low overhead commercial facility that potentially was shared, like a commercial kitchen. So this got us to businesses that likely did not have a dedicated storefront, their own dedicated workspace, or professional office. They're working from their home spaces, or they're sharing big spaces. And within that definition, we had about 900 different businesses, which I found to be a little bit surprising. That was larger than I expected. So roughly, you could say a quarter to a third of the business licenses in Eureka are within this broad definition that we use. And I'll get into how we ended up with 900, and we can drill down as you'd like to. So the broadest class within our 900 was professional and business services, which is what you would expect. A lot of folks work from home. They have home offices. They're getting business licenses to do their businesses from their home office. So within this 195 licenses that you see, the 20% are things like therapy and counseling, business consulting, bookkeeping, taxes, sales brokerage, tutoring, architecture drafting, engineering, notary services, IT, translation, interpreting, virtual assistant, business support, strong professional classifications that are probably just using a home office. The next largest category we had was construction, home, and property services. These, depending on your definition, could potentially not be cottage industries. These are businesses that primarily, they don't have a home base besides their house, but they typically work at other people's houses as their business. They're house cleaners, they're construction, they're mowing the lawns, those types of things. So a couple of examples we got out of that one were, we've got lots of landscaping, lots of handymen, plumbers, electricians, folks who aren't large enough to have a business office and have multiple employees are usually 1 or 2 person operations, and they're going and they're doing services at other people's houses. And then about the same, about 19% was also quite a few personal care, health and wellness businesses. And so this is everything from like cosmetology, barbers, hair, estheticians, massage, doulas, care support, fitness, personal training, folks who are identifying their home as the place they're inviting people into for personal care, health and wellness type activities. And then we get into some of the categories that were a little less common. Surprisingly, property, lodging, and rental also had a fair number. And this one you may also, depending on how you think about this data, could not be considered a cottage industry. It is a very small business. I only included property, lodging, and rental businesses that did not have offices of their own. So these are folks that may own one apartment complex or run several Airbnbs. They're not contracting out the running of their short-term rentals to somebody else. They're running them themselves and listing their home address as their office. But that is a substantial number of folks. I think some of this probably reflects the proportion of licenses that are showing up that are property, lodging, and rental, I think reflects the fact that we have strong permitting processes around this type of business. And so typically if you're getting a short-term rental license, you're also going to get your business license at the same time because you're stopping at the planning counter and talking to folks. So other represented categories, about 10% are retail makers and product businesses. This is one of the more classic categories. When you think about cottage industries, you think about people making stuff at their house. And let's see what's on that list. We've got, so within here, it says sewing and apparel, fiber arts, crafts, ceramics, wood, leather, jewelry. Sometimes it's specialty goods, folks who are, it looked like maybe they were doing drop shipping, if you're familiar with that, where they were designing something and they were running the business from their house, designing something and then having somebody manufacture it, likely overseas, that then gets directly delivered to another person's house. This also includes art prints, soap, body, and herbal products as well. There were some candle makers and soap makers and folks who worked with natural essences in this category. Next, we have arts, media, events, and creative industries. This represents about 6%, although there was quite a bit of crossover in the makers and arts. So I put, if you were selling mostly on, if you listed that you were mostly selling stuff online, I put you in the retail makers category. And if you just listed your business as an art business, I put you more in the arts, media, events, and creative industries category. So within this category, arts, media, events, and creative industries, we've got visual arts, ceramics, quite a bit of photography, quite a bit of graphic design and marketing, writing, publishing, historical research, handful of event planners and entertainment, and then maybe another 10 or so folks who do music, streaming, performance, and then a couple of folks who do tours of some sort, like guided tours. Within food and beverage, about 5% of the business licenses we looked at. We have everything from mobile food trucks. So that's about 15 businesses that are mobile food trucks that have business licenses. It also included a lot of people who bake or make candy out of their house. We had one person who makes pies, a couple of folks who make cakes for a big events, another person who freeze dries candy and sells it. Other specialty food items and cafe operations. This was, if you were sharing a commissary kitchen, I put you into this category. So you were potentially doing catering or doing like small batch wholesale baked goods. And then we have mobile auto and transportation services. This one is made sense to me that it had a fairly small representation, just because when you get big enough, you do truly need a dedicated space because you're doing an activity that from a planning perspective needs to be more in an industrial space. So it's unusual, or not unusual, but more rare for you to be based out of your home doing mobile auto and transportation services. But some folks did mobile glass repair or were listed themselves as an auto mechanic. And so it sounds like maybe they just fix a couple of cars here and there as their business. And then also some folks in this category were doing transportation and delivery. So we had 6 folks who identified themselves as doing hauling, from either junk hauling or parcel delivery, little side businesses like that. Then we had personal and household services. And this one really is so different than like when we were looking at the construction and cleaning services. This is pet services. This is pet sitting, dog walking, mobile pet grooming. And then this is also repair services like sharpening, appliance repair, tuning instruments, piano repair, those sort of things where you're going to somebody's home or you're working in your own home doing services for the household. And then we had a few folks who I think are also what folks think of when they think of cottage industries that I class into agricultural and natural resource macro businesses. We had one person who talked about having a nursery in their yard and selling plants wholesale that way. A couple of folks who cut firewood and sell firewood. One person sells fish off their boat and has a business license for that. I put them in the cottage industry because it didn't sound like they were wholesaling their fish anywhere else or working with a larger operation. They were catching fish and selling them off of their boat. So you had a couple of different smaller what you would consider more maker producer industries in the agricultural, natural resource, or micro businesses. So that's our big picture of what's going on. I have data in front of me that can get a little bit more in the detail if you'd like more specifics. But I think largely I'm interested to know what council would like. And for me, looking into this really brought up like how do we better support these businesses, and wanting more data to know more about them, to know how we better support these businesses. In economic development, we think a lot of, particularly about retention of our businesses, of course, like recruitment is important and growth is important, but like also for these folks, if like, do they want to grow? But also if they don't want to grow, what do they need to continue doing business as they are? So potentially we could look into a survey and gather more data if that's the council's interest. Something that's happened in the past that was successful was also considering partnering with some of our business economic development organizations and hosting a mixer and having folks who are in typically very isolated industries get together and be able to share ideas and meet each other and connect and sort of foster connection in that way, both for, I think, like residential satisfaction and for potentially business connection and growth. And your ideas, what do you want next with this?
Well, thank you for that report. Do we have any questions or comments? Councilmember Moulton?
Thank you so much for that report. That was very enlightening. I love to see that there's 2,300 business licenses that are unique to Eureka, like, really centered here. And all these cottage industries, I love the idea of reaching out to these folks. They may not be hooked into we meet with the Chamber of Commerce, and these are like bigger businesses and more established and often generational businesses. So getting these folks kind of connected in with resources as well as the community of business owners, I see a lot of potential there for stability, if not growth. But when you talk about supporting them, some things that come to mind that I know have been issues in the past, I'm curious about their access to workspaces. Like if they're doing cottage industry and their kitchen is fine, that's fine, but are there enough commercial kitchens that would like for rent? Is there refrigerated storage? Or can we help connect people to refrigerated transportation networks for things where that's appropriate for like a really small retailer who couldn't necessarily fill a box truck, you know what I mean? So that's just my thoughts. Is how do we get cold stuff moved around in and out of Eureka, especially for small businesses? Because I know it's something that medium and large businesses also have challenges with around here.
Councilmember Castellano?
Yeah, thank you. And I echo many of Councilmember Moulton's kind of questions and enthusiasms. And this is, when requested bringing this forward, kind of exactly what I was hoping for. So thank you. And similarly, just like, are folks interested possibly in storefronts or shared spaces? When you talked about the number of personal care, health, and wellness businesses, I was like, wow, they could, there could be a collaborative effort, like a little sort of training space or something, where people could go see clients and kind of grow their business that way. Or, and then so I think that would be a great question for a survey. Also, sort of, what are their markets? Are their markets mostly people in Eureka? Are they people out of the area? Are they friends? Kind of like how many clients they have, or where their clients are located, as much as people feel comfortable sharing. Do they have employees? Do they want employees? Like, would that ultimately help them if they could grow enough to kind of, not just do it alone, or if they are working alone? And, kind of just general, what are their needs? And I do think some sort of mixer, maybe a mixer that's like a little bit of a showcase, like people who have a product could bring a product and share it, or, or something like that, so they could get a little bit of light on them. And possibly even connect to folks like the SBDC, the Chamber, Eureka Main Street, or, just different local organizations that support businesses. And then, of course, as the city continues to create economic development opportunities, making sure that they're aware of those. You know, for instance, if we kind of look at opportunities to support people entering into vacant storefronts, you know, if that is able to, you know, if we're able to figure that out, you know, economically, it'd be great to make sure that they just feel like they have, you know, support, or at least like people in the city who care about what they do. I think that actually means a lot to folks. Yeah, thank you.
Councilmember Fernandez.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for putting together this presentation. You touched on the fact that we have just over 2,300 business licenses and about 900 fit into the cottage industry based on the definitions that you provided. That's probably a little over a third, which is great. Can you explain, any possibility of why that might be the case, or is it part of a larger trend to see, about a third of that, or does it differ from maybe other trends we might see in California or outside of our area? Do you have any idea on the trends of the cottage industry, as it were? Is my question then.
Through the chair, yeah, I have not looked at data for other organizations and other municipalities to see how it compares. Certainly could look into that if that's the council's will. My sense was that, like, generally you're getting a business license when you need to. Folks, everybody should be getting a business license who operates a business, but I saw the number of business licenses that are located within Eureka. It captures each unique license. It doesn't necessarily capture how big they are. So a lot of these folks are just doing a business in their home office, and it may be their primary business, or it may be their side hustle. So I think that's part of the reason we're seeing so many business licenses, is it's capturing a lot of people's side hustles, perhaps. I think that's why I'm interested in doing a survey, is understanding more about what this data does truly mean, because we can make some inferences and our best guesses, but without more information, I don't know.
Yeah, I'd be curious about that as well. I do like the idea of a survey, and then echoing the other council members that have already spoken. What are the resources that they need to succeed? Figuring out, do they want to grow? Are they happy? Are they content where they're at? Just the resources that we have in the community that might be available to them, whether it's the fabrication lab or the Lost Coast Fab Lab or other maker spaces. To Councilmember Castellano's points, that collaborative effort, and I would be curious to see how we compare to other regions, particularly within California, because it does feel, anecdotally very, very Humboldt, like, well, I can't make this work, but I can make what I know work in my home. And so I'm just curious how that fits with other pieces of California.
Councilmember Bauer.
Yeah, thank you for the report. I'm curious if we can find out. I know at one point, Richardson's Grove, right? We're finally seeing that project occur on the 101, and supposedly our local, manufacturers had to switch trucks, I think, because they couldn't get these big trucks through at the time. So I'm curious to see if we see an improvement in our local small businesses with the improvement of the highway. It's just one of those things, will that increase their business capacity? I mean, price of diesel is never going down again, but I'm hopeful that that work maybe transitions into more college businesses, So I don't know how you ask that question, in the future, but will we see an improvement from that project, in overall our businesses, things like Dick Taylor and stuff, who are world renowned. I hope it benefits them. I'd like to hear if it actually does after all these years.
And they started as a cottage industry in their house, and then have grown and expanded. It is an interesting question, and thinking about how we can look at the data available, and I think it's maybe perhaps asking folks what they're receiving on trucks that come in and how that impacts how they do business.
Yeah, definitely. And one last thing, I'm just curious, thinking about the future too. Like, how do Eureka's not a place to grow food really, but we catch fish and things like that. How can we help businesses that make us more sustainable, self-sufficient, I mean, like I said, cost of shipping and whatnot. How do we encourage small businesses that produce food that stays local, and which would also reduce costs for our citizens. So I'm not sure if that's actually something that we can work on, but I'm curious. At one time, if you look at the old reports from like the early 1900s, we produced a lot of food, potatoes and wheat and all these things. And I don't see why we can't do that again in the larger community sense, but how can Eureka help with that is something we should try and figure out. Bring it back, Thanks.
Thank you. And Councilmember Fernandez, your hand is raised again, or, okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, just one more question to potentially add to the survey. I'd be curious how long these particular businesses have been in operation.
That's a great one. We'll add that one to the survey.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Castellano?
Sorry, as Councilmember Bauer was speaking, I just thought maybe their biggest expenses or costs, which could be different than their biggest challenges, because that may reflect, like maybe it's the cost of shipping or, the cost of goods or employees or something like that. It may also be good just to let people know that we're not trying to get them in trouble with the survey, when we ask it, that it won't be used, to get them or something.
So a disclaimer of sorts. Great. Anything further? Thank you so much. And this moves us to public comment. This is the time for members of the public who wish to be heard on matters that do not appear on the agenda. City Council policy is to limit each speaker to 3 minutes. Such time allotment or portion thereof shall not be transferred to other speakers. And pursuant to the Brown Act, the City Council may not take action on an item that does not appear on the agenda. Do we have anyone in chambers who'd like to speak? Come on up, Joanne. Sorry, that's really noisy.
Good evening, Council. My name's Joanne McGarry. I am a frequent visitor to Eureka, but I live in Arcata. But one of the 3 things I want to talk about right now is housing and the availability I've seen. And I just pre-registered to look at the Mallard sites. Not that I want to leave Arcata, but I'm keeping my options open, because one of the things I want to make all of you aware of is that many of us low-income seniors or otherwise are either on a current bridge subsidy like I am with the city of Arcata for my rent, but the Section 8 voucher program is no longer active. So there are people in the community who still have active vouchers that can apply for some of these housings. But at this point in time, those of us who applied and qualified for vouchers are not eligible at this point because they stopped the program. So I think that's important for you to kind of understand. There will be a lot of people out there that, need housing and don't have that particular aspect to help them. The second thing I wanted to talk about is the Earth Center design. I found out from the Humboldt Transit Authority people that my urgent request for safe indoor parking for bicycles at the Earth Center will not be designed inside the building, and that they're currently looking at bicycle parking in different sized outdoor bike lockers. And I find that not very acceptable or incentivizing for people, because bike lockers outside long-term, unattended, I don't know, it just is sad to know that bicycle parking at the Earth Center is not going to be accommodated inside the building at this point. Maybe that will hopefully change. So that's the second thing I wanted to talk about. And the third thing is, I know many of the people in Eureka are really excited about cruise ships arriving at the dock, and the big one's coming on Friday. And I just want to share that I remain concerned, not only in a climate way about what those ships represent, but in a personnel way in terms of the crew. And I've brought this up before in private to some of you that many of them are internationals probably. And I just want to ensure that when we're welcoming passengers on big, huge cruise ships, that we also do what we can to accommodate the crew, because their visiting our shores is as important, and recognizing all that. So
Thank you, Joanne.
That's what I wanted to say.
Appreciate you being here. Is there anyone else in chambers who came to? Oh, good morning, Pat. Or good evening. Welcome.
Hi there, everyone. I'm Pat. I just want to congratulate you all on your decision to allow the increase in the recology. You do the bidding of the business quite well, and yes, that was snarky. Recology can eat the increases in gas, etc., that's caused by the Trump administration, but we the people, we can't. And we voted you in to help the people, and you're helping businesses. As you've seen in people are sick and tired of these promises, as you've seen in people electing people in New York and Michigan that are actually trying to work for the people and are not corporate politicians like you have actually been. I just want to say that I'm very disappointed in you, Leslie. I was hoping that you would side with the business, that you would side with people, and you did not. And Kim, well, I expected your vote. I want to thank Mario Fernandez. I want to thank Renee very, very much for actually trying to help the people. Thank you for your poor performance. And now that we see who works for us, we can see who is a corporate politician. That's why Trump got elected, okay? He got elected because of politicians wringing their hands and saying, oh, gee, oh, gee, oh, gee, oh, gee, but then finally voting for it. And that is personal, okay? It is personal. That's what the Democrats have been doing, and that's why we have Trump, because the working people decided, who are we going to vote for? The Democrats aren't doing anything for us, so they voted for the only other party that there was. You gave us Trump. I'm sorry, I'm upset about people. Free Palestine, free Cuba, free Maduro and his wife. Thank you.
Thanks for being here. Come on up.
My name is Dave Startery. I'm a third generation Eurekan and veteran. Both my grandpas were in wars, and there's two more generations behind me. I'm here for traffic safety. School started, and half the people in Eureka will not do the school speed limit. I had to call the police the other day. My wife's on a walker, Dr. Kilgore and Lance Rebus, and St. Joe did a wonderful job on her hip in April. But she was coming out of Michael's the other day, and some idiot just sped in front of all the stores, the little driveway that goes to Subway, and instead of going back out, he picked up two people at Winco, so they might have been shoplifters, and he turned right around and did the same thing. And I'm going, well, if he hit my wife, I guess I got to get my rifle. I just, you know. But I think over 20 years, we've been in the top 5 of accidents in population groups our size in California. We had 4 children killed by drunk driver on 299 at Christmas. My grandsons, when they were smaller, their Volkswagen van that they went on safaris with the parents got totaled by a drunk driver. And my Aunt Shirley was killed by a drunk driver. We have all these celebrations and everything, but we're not have enough control on our beverage consumption. And the police and the fire, they got to go to all these accidents and pull these kids out. I think we should have an appreciation week for the police and the firemen, and maybe a free massage or free sandwich, I don't know. But and we had to disband our traffic enforcement department here about 7 or 8 years ago, so we don't have one. And our accident rate is worse or better, or what? It's not good. It's not good. And you need to get on Sacramento about being tougher on penalties. They let these people run around. They don't penalize them. Your place got broken into. Scott's place got broken into on 7th at the insurance office. And you know what the Eureka official said? California is a criminal utopia. So maybe you guys and some other councilmen with all these people are getting these business. Maybe you can protect them a little bit. But I don't know. But, you know, I turned 75 a couple days ago, and 2 of the grandsons are driving, and the third one is on the runway. So I'm going to try to do what I can to get it safer here, you know. But if you can make a proclamation that school's in, the mile sign is in effect all day, whether the kids are out or in. And both lanes going on Henderson and Harris, it's in effect all the time. But we need some enforcement. Thank you.
Happy birthday. Thanks so much.
Hey, thanks a lot.
Welcome.
Well, hi. My name is Phyllis Coy, and I do have a much lighter subject to bring up tonight. On August 18th, 1951, an important event occurred in Eureka and Humboldt County history, in my opinion. A baby camel was born. She was named Eureka, but later she became Miss Eureka. She was purchased by the local Shrine Club and the Shrine Circus, then donated to the city of Eureka. Miss Eureka was to remain with her mother, Sydney, for approximately 6 weeks, then be picked up in Klamath Falls, Oregon. On September 23, 1951, a Pierce Flying Service plane piloted by Les Pierce, accompanied by Earl T. Johnson, local shrine president, and local veterinarian W. J. Sherwood, picked up Miss Eureka and returned her home. There has been an extensive search for a picture of Miss Eureka on the plane, which has been unsuccessful as yet. Please search old family photo albums for this picture. If found, please forward to Zoo Director Jim Campbell Spickler at zooinfo@eurekaca.gov, all in lowercase letters. Thank you for your efforts to locate this photo. Respectfully, Phyllis Coy. Also, what triggered this was about a month ago, the Times Standard ran an article on Bill the chimp and asked for any animal memories, basically. And it triggered a memory for me about our grandfather hand feeding Miss Eureka a bottle with our youngest sister in someone else's arms. And I also recall us poking peanuts through the cyclone fence in the pen that she was, and her crunching on them, shells and all. But it's a memory, and it's something it's triggered other memories. The search for this photo has triggered several other memories. So if anyone has any animal memories, the zoo director, I think, would appreciate them. Thank you for your time.
Thanks for that great story. Is there anyone else in chambers who came to comment on a non-agenda item? Seeing no one, is there anyone on Zoom?
I see no one.
So we have no one on Zoom. This will bring us to council reports, and we're going to start with Councilmember Castellano.
Okay. Since our last council meeting, I attended several meetings. A meeting related to some planning around the Great Redwood Trail, kind of looking at placekeeping efforts, cultural visibility efforts, public art. The Humboldt Waste Management Authority meeting, a meeting related to nonprofits, collaboration among nonprofits, and the Art and Culture Commission meeting.
Thank you. Councilmember Moulton.
Thank you, Mayor. I have no travel to report since I've been gone a little while, so I have a list here. Since the last meeting I attended, I went to a badge pinning ceremony for Humboldt Bay Fire, several folks moving up in rank. Each one of them represents like dozens, if not hundreds of hours of work. I'm always appreciating how Humboldt Bay Fire is. Everybody there is always building more skills and improving their service to the community. Then I was absent for 2 meetings. I spent 2 weeks running a summer camp and 1 week on vacation. attended a Humboldt Bay Fire board meeting, attended the last Eureka Friday night market, which was very, very fun. Shout out to event coordinator and Rutabaga Queen Olivia Gambino, who was recently voted best local celebrity, beating out Guy Fieri and Bigfoot.
Nice.
So, she's very special. Looking forward on 9/11, beginning at 9 a.m., I believe, there is a stair climb. Our first responders from Humboldt Bay Fire and from Eureka PD will be, and other groups around the county will be climbing an equivalent number of stairs to the first responders who ran into a burning skyscraper on September 11th to try and save people. The public is welcome to come and witness this honor that our folks are doing, but it is only first responders on the stairs. To echo what someone from the public said, the school is back in session. Also, fog and rain are rolling back in, so pedestrians, keep your head up, act like there's your life is at risk, because it is. Drivers, keep your eyes up, go slow, give yourself time to get where you need to go, and act like this everyday thing that we all do is actually a huge responsibility. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Bauer?
Yeah, thank you. I also attended a Humboldt Bay Fire Joint Powers Authority meeting. And I've been gone for a little while, and I apologize. I missed the last Friday night market. I'm very disappointed in that, but I'm happy to report my parents now live closer to family. And so I'm spent some time, and I just want to say, take care of your folks. It's a interesting part of life when you have to start taking care of them after they've done it for you. And I just want to say that people can have, I'm taking this opportunity to say, you can have all kinds of thoughts about this council, but you don't need to attack people individually. Council member Castellano works harder than any council member I've ever met. And to call her corporate, she's furthest thing from it. And to, basically attack her, I take offense to that. And I wish people would be more respectful. You can hate us, you can do, you can have those kind of feelings, but don't attack us individually. It's pointless, and it lacks complete civility. And I'm frustrated by it. And I just want to say, I've appreciated working with you for these years, and thank you for all you do. I'll just say that. I'm sure a lot of people would say the same thing. Thanks.
And it's a lot. Councilmember Fernandez.
Sorry.
Council reports.
All right. Yes. Sorry, I was trying to get back to my notes here on my computer. Working backwards. So our 2x2 with Chamber of Commerce is rescheduled to October, so we didn't have that today. And then participated in the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence Bingo just a few weeks, or just the other week. And then with the League of Cities, I've concluded my service on the Governance, Transparency, and Labor Relations Policy Committee. No resolutions this cycle, though we did have a breadth of discussion on AI policy and implementation over the last few months. And looking forward to the hopeful reappointment here towards the end of the year. So thank you.
Thank you. And then for my mayor's reports, I've been up to a few things, just a few. So school started on Monday. So prior to that, I was able to go to the wastewater treatment and had a tour with Michael, Sunshine, and Kelly. They have this, oh my gosh, you guys, they have this really great pond out there. It's so deep. It should be a swimming pool. It's just incredible. There's a picture of it on my socials if you want to see it, but I tell you, it was something else. I went to the Coast Guard. It is Coast Guard month, so I've been celebrating with the Coast Guard. I went to the Coast Guard barbecue at Pearson Park. I went to a ribbon cutting for Hanil, which is a really beautiful new shop in Old Town. It's down across from the Carson Block building, kind of across from where Bombonier used to be. I did attend the Friday night market and did a ribbon cutting for the Humboldt made vending machine in an evening gown, because that same night I was the MC for the Bella Vita Fire Dancer show there at the Friday night market. Great time at the Thursday night concerts with our community. It is always so fun and amazing hanging out with our community. And by being able to make those connections when stuff gets hard, we've got those connections in place so we can continue to work together. Half Humboldt Bay Marathon, I volunteered, and then I did the half. No running this year, but Chris will appreciate this. Sub 13 miles I walked, and I was pretty impressed with myself. And just to say, there was a guy, just for an inspiration for just a moment, there was a man at the marathon. His age group was 75 to 79. He was running a marathon this year in all 50 states. He'd completed 48. He only has Maine and Hawaii to go. That is pretty inspiring. He was complaining because he was slow. I'm sorry. I'm like, oh my gosh. Hashtag goals, sir. Hashtag goals. I got to go with Humboldt Bay Fire on a ride along. And I just want to share with you the professionalism of our department is really incredible. I got to go on 2 different calls to service. And then I got to walk around Old Town and just see how engagement with the public and all of those things. And I just am really, it was an honor. And I'm just so proud that we have such a great department here locally. I also got to go up in the Stokes basket, only 10 feet. The Stokes basket is what they use for, like out on the water to pull somebody up from a rescue, the Stokes basket. So you get strapped in there. It was pretty amazing. I did deliver Coast Guard dinners, steak dinners. Southwest Rotary and the Elks Club do steak dinners for our Coast Guard every year out at the different stations. So we went to the Coast Guard Humboldt Bay, we went to Samoa, and we also this year got to go on the Barracuda, and we got a tour of that with Deputy Director Shannon Fazio. Probably one of the best things I got to do was go to the Tri-County Living. They did a ribbon cutting, or not a ribbon cutting, but a dedication of a conference room for our friend Charlie Bean. And I'm going to take a minute because Charlie Bean was an incredible human being. He lived in Eureka. He advocated for people with disabilities all the time. He was in a wheelchair. He was on our Transportation Safety Commission, and it was named that because traffic doesn't include wheelchairs, nor does it include pedestrians or cyclists. So he was very much a part of our community, an incredible human being. And just to say, the Burgells loved Charlie Bean. He was an incredible person. So it was really neat to have that dedication for him. I went to a Jefferson project. I spoke at a workforce training about the civic duty and what that looks like. Went to a cultural food giveaway out at Alice Burney with 100 people. That was with the White Lotus dancers. Food for People in Redwood Regional Center. Of course, I just talked about how we went with Taiwan, did a lot of different things with them. HCOG is on Thursday. And then lastly, I had 2 other things that were really important. I did meet with the faith-based community last week to discuss, as I told you before, we'd had a meeting to discuss kind of what we were going to do about 3rd Street and some of the different areas in our region. And so we had a follow-up meeting, which was really good and very well attended. And I also went to a meeting at Free Meal to discuss those very things as well, on how we can make improvements on 3rd Street, because it's a constant effort. And if you want to be helpful in that way, we would love to have you show up and help because it's going to take all of us. So with that, that's what I've been up to, just a few things. And we're going to move on to public hearings. And that's all since our last meeting. So with our public hearing, this is for an appeal of Planning Commission's conditional approval of the Stanton Vacation Rentals. And I do need to tell you all that my personal residence is over 500 feet and less than 100 feet from the 1,000 feet from the location. But I do not believe that I have a financial or any other material interest in the matter. Therefore, I will conduct this hearing, and if if I'm required to make a decision, I will proceed to do that because I don't have a conflict. So I will be running the public hearing, and we will begin that with Assistant Planner Rayburn. Welcome.
Good evening, council members. I am Assistant Planner Taylor Rayburn, and I'll be presenting the appeal of the Planning Commission's conditional approval of the Stanton Vacation Rentals at 1102 J Street for your consideration and decision. Oop, there we go. Here is an overview of the project location. The subject parcel is located in the inland portion of the city, near downtown on J Street, about a third of a mile south of Humboldt County Superior Courthouse. Zooming in further, we can see the zoning districts within the area. The subject parcel is located within the residential high district in green and is near the office residential and downtown districts in yellow and red, respectively. Under the standards in place when the application was submitted, vacation rentals without a proprietor on site required a minor use permit in residential districts. The Director of Development Services may refer a minor use permit to the Planning Commission and did so in this case due to the unique circumstances of multiple vacation rentals proposed on one site and the level of community interest in vacation rentals. The subject parcel outlined in yellow is a 7,700 square foot interior lot located on and accessed via J Street. The site consists of a 2-story, 2,720 square foot fourplex, which is a converted Victorian, a 500 square foot detached unit, a 200 square foot hot tub room, and a 430 square foot detached garage. Areas accessible to guests are highlighted in blue, while the restricted garage is highlighted in red. There is a 5-foot wide pedestrian alley along the north property line, marked in green. There's no city record indicating it has been vacated, though it has been fenced off by a previous owner of the subject parcel. The appellants have unlocked the gate at the city's request to restore public access. And the neighborhood consists mainly of apartment complexes and single-family homes. The appellants have provided a site plan, seen here on the right. The proposed project is to use these 5 dwelling units as vacation rentals with no proprietor on site. 4 of the units have 1 bedroom and 1 has 2 bedrooms. 2 adult guests are allowed per bedroom, plus 2 additional adult guests per vacation rental, for a total of 22 adult guests allowed on site at a time. That's 4 guests per 1 bedroom rental and 6 guests in the 2 bedroom rental. Off-street vehicle parking is not provided, but 1 bicycle parking spot per vacation rental is provided as required by city standards on a deck area near the hot tub room. The appellants applied for a vacation rental permit in 2024, but the application was incomplete and the appellants did not reply to the incomplete letter sent by planning staff. Therefore, it expired. Since then, the vacation rentals have been operated without a permit, though it is unclear if the appellants continued to operate the rentals following their appeal of the Planning Commission's decision. The application for the permit being heard today was submitted in January 2026. Because a complete application was submitted prior to the 2026 zoning code update, the prior zoning code standards for vacation rentals with no proprietor on site apply. This is the reason a minor use permit is required at all, as vacation rentals no longer need them. This is also the reason 5 vacation rentals can potentially be located on the same site. A limit of 1 rental per site with 9 or fewer units was added in the 2026 zoning code update. During the permitting process, it was discovered that the detached unit was not permitted as a legal dwelling unit, but was being used as a vacation rental. The unit has since been brought up to code and was approved by the building official through a building permit. And the appellants have set up a payment plan to repay transient occupancy tax owed to the city for prior operation. To approve the use, there are 5 required findings, 5 required findings for approval, requiring that 1, the proposed use is consistent with the general plan and zoning code. 2, the site is suitable for the size, design, and operating characteristics of the proposed use. 3, the proposed use will be compatible with existing and planned land uses in the vicinity of the subject parcel. 4, the proposed use will not be detrimental to the public health, safety, and welfare. And 5, the proposed use is properly located within the city and adequately served by existing or planned services and infrastructure. The Planning Commission held a public hearing for the vacation rental minor use permit on June 10th, 2026, where the Planning Commission could not make findings 1 and 2 relating to general plan consistency and site suitability, respectively. They could not make finding 1 as the loss of affordable housing was in conflict with general plan policies H5.1 relating to balancing the need for housing with the market for vacation rentals, and H5.3 related to retention of existing affordable rental housing, which applies here due to the small size of some of the units. They could not make finding 2 as they found that the intensity of use and lack of parking made the site unsuitable for the proposed use. And condition K, which was added at hearing, was added to make findings 1 and 2. Approving only 3 of the 5 proposed vacation rentals was necessary to mitigate the reduction of affordable housing stock, balance the need for housing against that for vacation rentals, and lower the intensity of use on site. With the addition of Condition K, the Planning Commission was able to make all of the findings and adopted Resolution number 2026-7 in a 3-2 vote. The appellants have filed this appeal to request the removal of Condition K, giving the following reasoning. General Plan Policy H5.1 does not support the Commission's decision. General Plan Policy H5.3 does not support the Commission's decision. 5 vacation rental units would not increase on-street vehicle parking or create a higher intensity of use. The decision to limit the number of vacation rentals from 5 to 3 or to require 2 units to be operated as long-term rentals is arbitrary and not based upon ordinance, policy, or facts. The Planning Commission staff report finds the 5-unit vacation rental supports General Plan Policies LU 5.5 and E 6.3. And the application was properly submitted under prior regulations. All of these claims have been addressed in full on the agenda summary, but the following is the most relevant. While the Planning Commission was concerned about parking, no parking requirements may be imposed upon this project as it is within a half a mile of a major transit stop. So that was a very valid concern to raise. The appellants claim that none of these units would be considered affordable housing. Therefore, using them as vacation rentals does not reduce available affordable housing stock. And General Plan Policy H5.3 does not apply. However, the 2040 General Plan in Housing Element Strategy 5 and Policy H1.16 defines all units under 500 square feet as affordable by design, meaning that units in that size range are automatically considered to be affordable housing. Units B and D are each about 450 square feet and are therefore affordable by design. Additionally, Unit F, that detached unit, is about 500 square feet and may be considered affordable by design depending on interpretation of the City Council. Therefore, the project as proposed would remove 2 to 3 affordable housing units from the market in conflict with Policy H5.3. The appellants claim that the Planning Commission lacked any basis in ordinance, policy, or fact to limit the number of vacation rentals at the site. First, the Planning Commission is a discretionary body, and the inclusion of Condition K was within the scope of their authority. Second, there is prior precedent for the limiting of vacation rental uses due to too many being located close together in a residential neighborhood. Minor use permit 2214 was denied by the Planning Commission in 2022 for this reason. Although that application involved different facts, it demonstrates that vacation rental concentration and operating intensity may be considered through the discretionary review process. And lastly, The appellants brought up that their application was submitted under prior regulations before the addition of the 1 unit per site limit and 250-foot physical separation requirement, implying that reducing the number of vacation rentals on this site meant the Planning Commission was applying the new vacation rental standards incorrectly. If that were the case, however, the Planning Commission would have limited the appellants to 1 vacation rental. Staff believe that the retention and rewording of Condition K is necessary to make all of the required findings to approve the minor use permit, as described in the agenda summary. And for those reasons, the recommendation is to hold a public hearing and adopt a resolution continuing to find the project exempt from CEQA and upholding the Planning Commission's conditional approval in part, while modifying the approval to retain and revise Condition K to clarify that 3 vacation rentals are approved and the vacation rental use of the remaining 2 units is denied without requiring any particular alternative use, provided the use is otherwise lawful, and revise Condition F to establish a maximum occupancy consistent with the 3 approved vacation rentals. Staff has also prepared an alternate option should City Council choose to remove Condition K as requested by the appellants and modify the Planning Commission's findings to allow all 5 dwelling units to operate as vacation rentals. I have suggested motions prepared for each option when you're ready, but we'll stop screen sharing until then. And I believe the appellants are here. Yes. The appellants and I are available if you have any questions.
So actually what we're going to do is we're going to take questions for staff first, and then we will bring the appellant up to share your concerns. So are there questions for staff? Councilmember Moulton?
Thank you. And thank you for putting all this together. I appreciate it. It's a complicated question. I have one question, which is, I know we have a lot of these Victorians in town, which are subdivided into little apartments. Mm-hmm. When we see something like that, how many people would you typically find on a lot this size? Assuming it's not an apartment complex, it's a chopped up Victorian with maybe an ADU. Would you find 22 people on living in 5 apartments?
I don't think so. I know we recently did a pre-development review to convert. It was an old Victorian that was converted into 9 units a long time ago, and now they actually want to revert it to 6. Mm-hmm. But I have seen up to 4 units in an old Victorian, but I wouldn't know if each of those units had, more than 2 people.
So you don't have any idea how many actual residents there might be. We can infer from number of bedrooms, right? But you don't necessarily have that data.
I don't have that data. No.
Okay. My other question is, I remember when we did our inventory of housing and vacation rentals, and if I remember off the top of my head, it amounted to just around 1% of the housing available. Does somebody have that current number? How much housing in Eureka is currently dedicated to vacation rentals that we are aware of?
I think it's about 1.15% or something. It was definitely less than 2, closer to 1%. Okay. We have it we can look it up right here in the Planning Commission staff report.
But if it had, quadrupled or something in the last few years, you probably you'd know that. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. That's my questions for now.
Thank you. Councilmember someone? Castellano?
Sure. Thank you for your report and for the time you spent on this topic. Similar to Councilmember Moulton's, are we seeing generally an increase in vacation rentals in Eureka? Like, does it seem like
it's been pretty steady? Now we changed the rules in April of 2026, or it was actually we changed them in March, right? It was effective. We have been getting a steady stream of the vacation rental business licenses where it's 1 allowed per site. I've probably seen at least 5 or 6 come through, but we've processed about 10 a year of the no proprietor on site, at least for the last 5 years. I know we also recently sent out, the city attorney's office sent out some letters telling people to come in to get into compliance that were ignoring the previous letters. to people that were operating without permits. So I know people are coming in for that now too.
Yeah, I'd just say that based on the third-party consultant that we hired and stuff like that, it fluctuates, but people come, people go, and people apply and people drop off. So we haven't seen a drastic increase at all,
Great. And then let's see, and you have seen some examples of permits that have proprietors on site and or staff on site, or kind of that combination of long-term residents and vacation rentals.
There, so under the old regulations, if you were a proprietor on site, so if there were a couple dwelling units on your site and you lived there, then you didn't need the minor use permit. I do know we have a few of those, but not very many. I'd say there was more no proprietor on site.
I looked at, the Kristen Kenyon Development Services Director. I did an analysis of the around 95 active legal vacation rentals that are fully permitted, and it's about somewhere between 20 and 30% that are home shares. So they're not actually converting a full unit. They're just, people are supplementing, they're getting income to, remain where they live.
Great. And do you hear of any challenges that people face in finding appropriate vacation rentals? Like, does it seem like there's a shortage or anything like that?
No, I know I've heard of people using vacation rentals as temporary housing to try to find permanent housing. And I actually do know someone personally who wanted to relocate here with his mother and was not able to find an affordable rental. They spent all their money on vacation rentals.
Great. And then with the parameters that the Planning Commission recommended, would that allow, in terms of like longer term rentals, would that include kind of like rentals for visiting nurses and, like that kind of that professional kind of rental? So maybe not like a year-long rental, but like a 2 or 3 month rental.
Yes, they can operate longer than 30 days. So as long as they're renting it for 31 days or 30, I'd have to double check, it would be okay. I think it's 30 or more.
Thank you.
Councilmember Fernandez. Thank you.
Hello, thank you. Can you tell me about the historical usage of this property? Has it been utilized for vacation rentals in the past, or has it always been residential use? How does it look over its time?
Yeah. Oh, did you want to try that? Yeah.
My understanding is it was rented as long-term rentals in the past, and then at some point was converted into a vacation rental use.
And if I can clarify, from the public hearing, what I remember at the Planning Commission, the applicant saying was that she purchased the property. They were looking for a historic home, even though it's not on the register. They were looking for one specifically to fix up and have as vacation rentals. And apparently the house was in pretty bad shape. So they did come in and they did restore a lot of stuff. So they did improve that housing stock. But apparently it was pretty run down before they purchased.
And as it had been run down historically, it had been used for long-term rental.
Yes, it was a long-term rental, I believe. We asked the police department if there was any calls for service, and I think there were a couple before. It was just a couple, but it was like a decade ago.
And then this permit in particular then was filed before the current zoning code update. I think you established that, yes?
Correct.
Okay, so that would have been 2026, but it sounds like there had been a few attempts to have this permitted, but things fell through. Is there an explanation as to why it was incomplete in 24 and then it took until 26? And just how did all that occur?
Yeah, I actually was the supervisor that reviewed the incomplete letter under one of our old planners. It had an inadequate floor plan and site plan, and we had also found out that the detached unit was only permitted as an art studio. So we wrote the incomplete letter telling them that. We also that's when we found out about the pedestrian alley, and we had done some digging to see if that had been vacated. So that incomplete letter had outlined you can't use the 5th unit unless it's permitted as a dwelling unit. You need to submit adequate site and floor plans, and then you need to apply for the alley vacation or just unlock that pedestrian access way until you can get an approved vacation. So that happened, I believe, it was the end of 2024 sometime. And then we didn't hear back and the permit expired. And so when I think she got the TOT letter and was like, oh, and then followed up with us and promptly did reapply once she realized that her other application had expired. But yeah, and then we let her know that she needed to get that 5th dwelling unit permitted, and they did pretty quickly after.
So then it's been established that that's been the intent, at least with the purchase moving forward, is that they were wanting to get this permitted for vacation rentals. They had been notified that the permit was incomplete, but then something happened and just dropped off. I know we're waiting to hear from the appellants, but is there an explanation from city staff as to why that may have occurred? Why there was no communication until it seemed January 26, almost a year later?
Yeah. Well, the applicant said at the Planning Commission public hearing that she apologized for not following through or knowing the process. She thought it was going to be like the city of Arcata, apparently, where you pay for your license and you're good to go. That's what I remember her hearing at the public hearing.
Okay. And I believe I've asked this similarly for other hearings or even other topics, but when they applied for the permit, was it explained that they would need to complete these qualifications, as it were, to then move forward and be done and have it issued? Or again, was it like, well, you're here, here's what you need to do, now go on with your day? How does that work?
So it's our typical process. An application is submitted. Our admin tech, Ray Lane, she will review it for counter completeness. It was counter complete enough that it got to a planner. Then the planner reviews it and wrote the detailed and complete letter. And we put it in OpenGov, and she would have gotten a notification. She did say she got it at the hearing. But like she said, she was unfamiliar with our process and didn't quite, she was probably just busy, running her business. So I don't know why it took a year, but we did a pretty detailed letter. And then as soon as she reapplied, we came and did a site visit and then offered up how she could get the dwelling unit permitted. So I felt like we were helpful.
Okay. And is it the case that this has been operating as a vacation rental since 24, or at least at some time in between? Because it sounds like there's also an issue of TOT in arrears.
Yes, we sent out that incomplete letter, and following that, operation without a permit began. And that is the back TOT that we were attempting to collect, or finance was attempting to collect.
Well, to clarify, I think maybe the reason why she realized her application had expired and didn't get didn't proceed in the process is because I believe she got the TOT letter that said, hey, we see you operating, please pay your TOT and get your permit.
Okay. And so I know we're looking at the high end in terms of the range of occupants, a max of 22. And then, of course, if each one were just filled, it'd be potentially 5 at what I think is a low end. Do we have any data that's been shared with us that shows the usage since it's been operating and now?
I don't think we have that data, specifically how many people are in each unit, but she did state at the hearing that she limits the rentals to 2 people per bed. So she is already imposing some limitations.
Okay. And does that differ than what's being offered? Because it sounds like if it were 2 people per bed, and I'm assuming, what was it, 4 1-bedrooms and 2?
Yeah, that's definitely
1 2-bedroom. Mm-hmm.
Correct. That's different than what the zoning code allows. So hers would be 2 per bedroom. The zoning code is 2 per bedroom plus an additional 2.
That would be 12.
12, yes. And so certainly if you were to approve all 5 dwelling units, you could make a condition to limit it to the 2 per bedroom. That might be a little hard to track and enforce, but it still could be a condition imposed that if for some reason there were complaints, then we at least could point to that for the future.
Okay. And then, it says in the staff report that at the time, city staff are not aware of any sites that contain more than 2 rental units. So this would be something novel then to Eureka in that sense.
Correct. For no proprietor on site. I mean, there might be 1 or 2 of proprietor on site where it's more than 2, but this is the only one with no proprietor on site with more than 1 or 2.
Okay. And then I have 2.5 questions left. How does it differ then in terms from operating 3 vacation rental units versus the request of 5? I guess I'm just trying to figure out, is it an issue of the occupancy, which it sounds like there's already self-imposed limits, or what's the uniqueness from 3 to 5 in this sense in terms of the rentals?
My interpretation of the Planning Commission's decision was that this was something of a compromise rather than say no or limit it to the 1 or 2 that would be normal in Eureka, meeting in the middle at 3.
Yeah, and to clarify that, it really is because of the small size of the units. One of the commissioners had brought up the affordable by design, and then the housing policy telling staff in the city of Eureka to preserve and replace any existing affordable housing. And so then we do have a definition of affordable by design. They're less than 500 square feet. So there are a few of those. Also, because of the operating without a permit and the building permit, also there was the detached studio. They wanted the detached 1-bedroom. They wanted to not be a vacation rental because it was illegally operated, maybe. But the biggest thing is the size of them, right? They're pretty small, so they could be affordable by design. And we're in a housing crisis.
Okay. And could it be the case then, and I know that there's a few, well, there's the recommended motion, and then there's opportunity for a few others. Could it be the case that this could be amended then to allow for 4 rentals, with the 5th, one of them being used for a live-in, an on-site proprietor then?
Yes, you could certainly do that. I don't think, maybe, could we require them to have an on-site proprietor, city attorney, Black? I don't think we could. I don't think that would be a good idea. But we'll see.
Yeah,
good idea because we don't know. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, that's okay. I think you can certainly say 4. Whether or not you can require an on-site proprietor or representative, I question that because I don't know what the source of that requirement would be. Like, I don't think it's provided for in ordinance or any other policy that we've ever discussed. So I think it's questionable. I'm not saying it's out of the question, but I think it's questionable.
Okay. I just asked that because based, at least on the question so far, it sounds like there may be other properties that do have an on-site proprietor. So I'm curious, would those then be live-in? But those weren't part of the code. That was just something that was self-imposed at the time. The history of that, I guess, I'm curious to.
Yeah, the code had 2 different vacation rental pathways in the old code. So you either either home shared, so you lived in the home and you shared your home, or you had 2 dwelling units on one legal lot and then you lived in one of them. And then if you wanted to have a vacation rental where no one lived there, no proprietor on site, you needed that minor use permit, and you had to go through this discretionary process where if you had a proprietor on site, you did not have to go through the discretionary minor use permit process. But now, since April of this year, full house and home share, we changed the lingo. So it's called a vacation rental, full house, and then vacation rental, home share. Those are now just through business licenses, but they're more restrictive. So if you're going to have no proprietor on site, you can only have 1 dwelling unit per property that has under 9 dwelling units. So I believe if you have over 9 dwelling units on your property, it's a higher is a percentage. But if you have 9 or less dwelling units, you can only have 1 vacation rental with no proprietor on site.
Okay, I could see where then my thought around that amendment might fall apart if there wasn't a requirement. And so it's okay. And then my last question, I do understand that in the report it says that the planning director, because of the uniqueness of this particular property, had passed it on to the planning commission. And so would the planning director then have any thoughts, as it were, to what's moving forward?
Planning director here. I think it's a tricky one. Just defining what a vacation rental is versus commercial lodging. When you get to 5 units on a site, it starts to get fuzzy. You regulate vacation rentals like a home under the building code. You don't have to do any accessibility upgrades. You don't have to do any like fire safety upgrades. You don't. They're treated like a home under the building code, whereas commercial lodging is a very different building code occupancy type with a lot more requirements because you're dealing with higher intensity use. And so it's a tricky middle ground. But also historically, we had a lot of lodging houses and bed and breakfast, but I guess those are more have a proprietor on site. The Planning Commission is very concerned about vacation rentals. They formed a subcommittee and spoke to City Council before. So that's why, it's especially controversial with the Planning Commission. And that's mostly why I elevated it. But I don't have a firm thought on it either way.
Got no dog in this hunt.
Yes.
Okay. All right. That's all my questions for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Bauer.
Mayor, if I might ask Councilmember Fernandez to state the reason that he's participating remotely and to identify whether there are any other individuals in the room with him.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure if I had to do that before we voted, but this is certainly well before that. I'm out of town caring for family, and there are no adults in the room with me.
Thank you.
Thank you. Did you have a question?
Yeah. And maybe it's for planning director or a simple question. Staff recommended 5 vacation rentals. It complies with all of our laws and regulations. We're still okay with that. Yes or no,
So the original Planning Commission staff report, staff did recommend approval. The thought was, so we also process a lot of these. So we kind of had processed them the same way. And the thought was there are permit revocation measures, right, that are in the vacation rental regulations as well as for the use permit regulations. So we did explain like how the permit could be revoked or suspended. I think one of the things that surprised me was when the Planning Commission brought up the general plan policy for the affordable by design and the affordable housing. And to be honest, it didn't really occur to me. So then as we were doing this appeal staff report, we were able to address all the concerns and still recommend upholding the Planning Commission decision. But it literally was that one policy, the affordable by design, and we're so wrapped up in housing right now. So it was, it was interesting. And I do also want to point out that the split vote, the 3-2, the 2 no's, one of the commissioners was voting no because they voted yes to approve. They would have voted yes to approve all 5, but one of them voted no because they didn't want any vacation rentals. So I just had to point that out. So it did seem like 4 of the 5 members at least supported limiting them on this site because of the intensity.
Maybe one more question. In most municipalities, what percentage do we know are vacation rentals? Ours is 1%, doesn't seem like much, but just curious kind of what the standard is, if you know.
Yeah, I checked our staff report. So in the city of Eureka, it's about 1.5%. Okay. But I know Kristen, she helped the Planning Commission when they did their subcommittee. So I'll let Commissioner.
I don't know what the actual percentage is in other jurisdictions, but I looked at a bunch of example caps, and they're usually set at like 4 or 5%, unless you're talking about like Carmel or Lake Tahoe, where it's a much higher percentage.
So about 4 or 5.
Yeah,
for a cap.
4 or 5 or 6% is typical of a cap.
Okay. Thank you.
Good. Councilmember Moulton, then Castellano.
Thank you. Forgive me if you covered this specific point. During the time when it was operating unpermitted, were they operating all 5 units as vacation rentals, or was there renovations happening during that time?
My understanding is they were operating all 5 as vacation rentals.
Thank you. And during that time, I know you said that there were calls for service from EPD when it was a long-term rental. Is that what you said before? Or I'm curious if there were any calls for service at the property during that period of time.
No, that was before the current property owner. So it was probably a decade ago under the old owners.
So my question is, under the current owners, while they were operating all 5 units unpermitted, were there any calls for service during that window?
No.
Okay, thank you. And then have you talked to any neighbors, any complaints from the neighbors? Has anything come up during the time when they've been operating all 5 units that would show that there should be concern?
No, we struggled with keeping a public hearing notice sign out front for the Planning Commission and for this hearing. So we did have to work with the property owner at least once to get it twice for the Planning Commission and once for the City Council. So I don't know what was happening there.
Meaning the signs were disappearing?
Like, out
Signs
front.
kept being
Yeah,
removed.
to like let the neighbors know what was going on. But
sounds
no,
like
we
a
haven't
Eureka thing.
received any phone calls.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's teenagers. Okay, sorry. That's all I have. Thank you.
Councilmember Castellano.
Just to clarify, if this application were to come before us today, according to what we put in place, only 1 unit would be allowed.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any further questions? Councilmember Bauer?
The affordable by design standard. Like, I assume the cost of renovating a Victorian is astronomical. Would it be realistic to say that these units could be affordable for someone to rent, just based off of the cost of restoring it? I mean, that's another question. I don't think that falls within policy or it's just something. Maybe that's not a question. Maybe that's something we need to think about, because I'm sure it would be challenged to rent one of these places for an affordable price.
I think even a nicer unit at 450 square feet in Eureka is still going to be relatively low cost. It's affordable by design. I don't have the housing element on me. It aims at low to moderate income. And the idea is that inherently, by being small, it is going to hit those low to moderate income targets.
Yeah, like it certainly wouldn't be lower income, but it could be moderate income, which is still considered affordable. And I can't remember what moderate is right now, but it might be like $78,000 a year for a family of 4.
Councilmember Fernandez.
Yeah, when was the 2026 zoning code update put into effect?
April 17th?
Thank you. Yeah. And then their application, even after the incomplete, their refiling took place in January of 26, yes?
Yes, they refiled in, I think it was January, and that application was incomplete as well. And they were able to refile a completed application prior to April 17th. Or it was marked complete prior to April 17th.
Okay, thank you.
Anything further? So I am curious, if these two were to go, to this affordable, what is the guarantee that they're going to be marked? They're not. I mean, I've gone by there. It's a beautiful house. I can't imagine that they're going to be having low rents on that location. I'm curious, how would you be able to enforce or mandate that?
Yeah, I mean, we can't, but people, we talk about traveling nurses all the time looking for somewhere nice. They pay top dollar, so traveling nurses need longer than 30 days. So I'm sure there's some young professionals who would appreciate a small cottage apartment. But yeah, we can't really quantify it. That's why our general plan and the housing element, it just says affordable by design. Like, it's, you know, even though it's a small apartment, like you probably aren't, I mean, I don't know, maybe her Airbnb rents for over 2,000 a month. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, it's hard to tell.
When you're saying that the professionals come in and they pay top dollar for an affordable place to live, I mean, top dollar doesn't necessarily mean affordable. That could be definitely market rate.
Correct.
So how would you be able to tell, I guess, how would you be able to see?
We
Do you
just,
understand what
as
I'm
part of the recommendation, we're not allowed to dictate what those other 2 units are for as long as they're legal and complying. They just can't be vacation rental units.
I see. Okay. Thank you for that clarification. Okay. If there are no further questions, we will bring up the appellant. Come on up.
Hello, I did want to, I brought my attorney. I was hoping she could address you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. And we have our next door neighbor who wanted to talk to you.
Okay.
And Mark Mattioli as
Okay.
a character reference. Is that okay?
So I believe how we would do that, correct me if I'm wrong, those folks would speak during public comment, open public comment.
The appellant's attorney can present for her, and the others can, once we open the public hearing, we'll have 3 minutes to speak.
Okay. And then can I speak and my husband speak as well? And our attorney, is that acceptable?
Yes,
Yes.
your husband and an attorney can present right now.
Okay, great. All right, well, then I'll begin. I'm Kathleen Stanton, and I'm the owner of 1102 J Street. And I just wanted to make clear that we stopped operating when the city asked us to. After the Planning Commission meeting, they said no more, and we stopped. And for some reason, Verbo put it back on and took it off, and it was weird. But we did stop. And also, I'm kind of pleased to hear that our Airbnb business is considered a cottage industry. When planning staff originally reviewed our application, they recommended approval of all 5 vacation rentals. And the Planning Commission then subsequently reduced the recommendation to just 3 units. The current staff report provides additional rationale in support of the Commission's decision, including concerns related to housing preservation and the potential intensity associated with 5 vacation rentals on a single property. I appreciate those concerns. However, I still do not understand the basis for the specific limitation of 3 units. Why 3? While the report explains the city's concerns regarding 5 vacation rentals, it does not clearly articulate why 3 are considered acceptable while 5 are not. What changes when you go from 3 vacation rentals to 5? There are 2 points in the current staff report that I believe are especially important. First, the Planning Commission required that 2 of our units remain long-term rentals, in part to address concerns about housing preservation. However, we now understand that the city attorney has advised that the city should not impose a requirement that those units remain long-term rentals. Accordingly, if the preservation of 2 long-term rental units was a key basis for limiting the project to just 3 vacation rentals, the revised condition, according to the city attorney, does not necessarily achieve that objective, which is significant. Second, staff expressed concern that 5 vacation rentals could accommodate up to 22 adults, which is viewed as potentially too intensive for the site. And we've previously clarified that this is not how the property is operated. We only rent to the number of people that we have beds for. And so the units are configured to accommodate approximately 12 guests. And the current staff report acknowledges our proposed 12-person occupancy limit. If the city's concern is intensity of use or over-occupancy, that concern can be directly and effectively addressed. We're willing to accept a condition limiting occupancy to 12 guests. That approach would respond directly to the city's stated concern without eliminating vacation rental use of 2 additional units. This brings me back to the central question, why 3?
The original staff recommendations supported all 5 units. The current report raises concerns about 5 units, but it still does not clearly explain why 3 is the appropriate threshold, particularly when the stated intensity concern can be addressed through an enforceable occupancy limit. The staff report also presents option B, which would remove condition K and allow approval of all 5 units. For these reasons, I respectfully request that the council approve option B, permit all 5 units to operate as vacation rentals, and if deemed necessary, impose a 12-guest occupancy limit. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Come on up.
Hello, I'm Chris Hamer, and I'm Kathleen Stanton's attorney. She did
Welcome.
a good job. I don't know if I can do better, but anyway, this is good evening, Mayor and members of the council. The issue on this appeal is whether the commission's resolution is supported by its findings and whether the findings are supported by evidence in the record. And as to condition K to the Planning Commission's resolution, the findings are not supported by the evidence in the record. This was an application by Kathleen Stanton for approval of a 5-unit Airbnb. And as noted, the Planning Commission found that all 5 units could not be approved because of the loss of residential housing availability per policy H5.1. The Commission found that approving 3 rather than 5 Airbnb units better balanced the effect of Airbnb units on the availability of residential housing. And there is no evidence at all in the record for this finding. There's no evidence that vacation rentals have any impact whatsoever on the availability of residential housing. The original staff report states that vacation rentals are having no impact on residential availability in Eureka. It reports there are only 93 licensed vacation rentals and 12,089 housing units in the city of Eureka. The staff report states that vacation rentals taking unpermitted and permitted together are less than 1.5 of the total housing units in the city of Eureka. This is all based on the American Community Survey 5-year average and information from the specialized consultant that the city of Eureka hired to monitor short-term rental listings since 2020. One of the council members mentioned that specialized consultant that was hired to determine how many vacation rentals there were vis-a-vis the long-term rentals. Since there's no evidence of any impact by vacation rentals at all on the availability of residential housing, there's no evidence that 5 vacation rentals will impact the availability of residential housing. There's no evidence that these rental units have to be limited from 5 to 3, because there's no evidence that 5 will have any impact on the availability of residential housing. And as per the city attorney, and as my client mentioned, you cannot require them to use the 2 non-approved units for long-term rentals, so that purpose isn't even achieved by limiting from 5 to 3 and having 2 not be used as long-term rentals. They could be used for anything. And then there's the next one, which I thought was really creative. The Planning Commission to justify the staff to justify what the Planning Commission had found, said that that this would limit the availability of smaller housing units which may provide comparatively lower cost housing. Those were their words, in conflict with policy H 5.1. Well, that's not what H.5.3 says. It says that it only refers to affordable housing, not affordable by design housing. And it only and it obviously means low-cost housing, like what everybody understands that to be. It's low rent that people can afford. This is not low rent that people can afford. This is not theoretically lower rent that nobody knows how much it is. That is not something that policy H 5.3 applies to. It doesn't use the term smaller housing units, which may provide comparatively lower cost housing. That would be speculative. It just applies to affordable housing. And it only states the city should support the retention of existing affordable rental housing where feasible and encourage the replacement of lost units. Why I say this, that the planning staff was creative, is that they pulled this affordable by design definition out of a policy that is only to encourage the building of smaller units by buyers. It is, by builders. It's policy H 1.16 that just states that builders should be encouraged to build smaller units, the smaller units being 500 square feet or smaller. And that is the only place where you see the term affordable by design. It makes no sense to say that that is the meaning of affordable, and then that would mean that you had to retain all small dwellings, and all of them would, whether they charged a lot of money or not for rent, they would all need to be retained, and there couldn't be any short-term vacation units that were 500 square feet or smaller. There's also no evidence in the record, and we're talking about actually evidence in the record, that the 5 Airbnb units would increase parking demand. There's no identified study, parking, or occupancy analysis or other project-specific evidence established that the 3 Airbnb units would increase parking demand. Staff now relies on the fact that the permit would allow up to 22 adult occupants of the 5 Airbnb units. There's still no evidence that parking demand would increase, but even if the 22-person occupancy limit was evidence of more parking demand, the resolution could, as noted earlier, just limit the occupancy allowed from 22 to 12. There's no evidence that justifying denying approval of the 5 rental units, the 5 short-term rental units, if the occupancy limit was reduced to 12. And in fact, it's noted in the Planning Commission report, it's specifically on page 2 of the Planning Commission report, the Planning Commission report that's supposed to support the resolution not the Planning Commission report, the staff report that's supposed to support the resolution of the Planning Commission. On page 2, it states that applicants stated that they were going to limit occupancy to 12. They only have 12 beds. That's how many they're going to have. And they agree to that condition. In short, there's no evidence supporting any of the Commission's findings. There's no evidence in the record. You can't rely on speculation. It has to be evidence in the record. And the Council should adopt option B, remove the condition K and approve all 5 units, or remove condition K and approve all units with a restriction of occupancy to 12 occupants. Now, there's one thing that has to be added. This isn't really an appeal because your decision is de novo. You are not bound in any way by what the Planning Commission did. The Planning Commission had their decision, and you make your decision afresh, brand new, and you're not bound by what they said at all. And your decision is going to be something that's judged by whether it's supported by the findings and whether the findings are supported by the evidence. So the City Council should not feel that they have to defer in any way to the Planning Commission. And we would ask that our client be allowed to have all 5 vacation units. They're really beautiful, and everyone should go see them. She invited everyone to go see them. And it would be good for tourism, and that condition K be removed. And they do agree to the 12-person adult occupancy unit. Thank you.
And do we have one more appellant to speak on this item? And then we'll have questions for you all. Hello and welcome.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Chris Morse, and I'm the co-owner with my wife of the 1102 J Street Place. And obviously, I'm going to be asking for 5 units, and that we eliminate Measure K. I have been a rental owner, manager, and general building contractor for 35 years here locally. My wife and I have worked with the various city building departments to make this stuff come to happen. We spent about $30,000 just fixing that one little outbuilding, and that garden cottage, we call it. All of the staff departments, as has been pointed out in our application here, approved the 5 units, and then it went to the Planning Commission. And so they had basically, as I see it, 3 points of contention and a couple of definitions. The 5 short-term rentals are inappropriate because they're too intensive and not consistent with the neighborhood. I'll get to some numbers on that. Short-term rentals are causing long-term rental loss in Eureka, and I don't think that's what we're seeing. And then also short-term rentals are creating a potential parking problem, and I have some more numbers on that as well. First, by their very nature, short-term rentals are intermittent, okay? Some days they're rented, some days they're vacant. They're not stacked in there on the calendar day after day after day. I have gone through the monthly rental reports for all 5 units for the year of 2025, and adding all of that stuff up, we come with a 57% occupancy. To answer one of your questions, I forgot who asked that question, also meaning that we have a 43% vacancy factor there. Okay, so, and then for the sake of comparison, I'm going to say that the long-term rentals have about a 95% occupancy for long-term, and then 5% vacancy as things turn over. Okay. These percentages are consistent with my years of renting and Amy Gonzalez's review, and she is our property manager there, not on site, but in Eureka. Long-term rentals, so if we take 5 long-term rentals and they have 2 guests each, and we multiply that by 95% occupancy, we have effectively 10 guests average throughout the course of the year. That's with long-term. With short-term, we have 2 guests times 5 units, and we multiply that by the occupancy rate of 57%, and we come up with just a little less than 6 average. So 10 long-term, 6 short-term. The Measure K mixed use is about, it's in the middle there between the 2 of them. So, the staff report, as you have heard, is over 12,000 houses, and and there's still no problem. The revised staff report states that the short-term rentals are not affecting rental availability, and based on the above discussion, the proposed use is consistent with Plan 5.1. So And if there were a shortage of rentals, staff recommended that you place a cap on the number of the rentals rather than trying to do it one per property or something. And finally, getting into some definitions with roughly 500 square foot size for 4 out of the 5 rentals. That fits one of the criteria for affordable housing. But these units were originally intended for short stay nurses, basically a month or 2, something like that. So we have fully outfitted kitchens, fully furnished units with beds and chairs and tables and lamps and artwork on the walls, kitchen utensils, and all of that stuff in all of the units. So, and then out in the yard, we've got a fully fenced 6-foot high fence around the yard, and that has locked gates, so we have some security. We have it well landscaped. My wife likes to do landscaping work, and so she's put a lot of time and effort into making it a very nice yard. And so that yard is shared with the 5 units. And it has outdoor furniture, a big barbecue, and also, as has been mentioned, a hot tub. So this never was low rent and never is likely to be low rent unless we clear out all the furniture and disregard the landscaping. And there's really no need for an on-site manager because we have Amy Gonzalez here in the city of Eureka, a very experienced Airbnb manager. And my wife and I are there essentially every week sometimes. She's taking care of the landscaping and she's doing all the stocking of the Airbnb units, you know, all the paper towels and supplies for the kitchen and things like that. And I'm over there, you know, doing maintenance as a, you know, retired contractor. So I don't feel that we really need to have an on-site manager. And lastly, I can address parking. There's a critical difference here between short-term rentals and long-term rentals. Short-term rentals are people that are driving to our city for a vacation or to you know, experience the ecotourism and that sort of thing. So they all come up one car, couple of people, one car. Long-term rentals, on the other hand, generally have 2 people in them. And each of those people usually has a car because they need to get around. They need to go to work or school or both. And so if we go back to the numbers again, we have 5 long-term units with 2 guests, each with a car. That means we have 10 cars potentially with long-term units. And at 95% occupancy, we'll round it up and still call it 10. The 5 short-term term units again have 2 guests per unit, and they have only 1 car. And that 1 car is multiplied by the 57% occupancy. And when you do that, we effectively have 3 cars outside instead of 10 cars. So again, measure K would kind of fall in the middle between the 2. And obviously having 3 cars less, you know, as opposed to 10 is going to significantly reduce the neighborhood impact, as would being all short-term rentals and having that vacancy factor of 57%. Since I'm the last owner to speak, are there any questions that you have for me?
Do we have any questions for the appellant? Councilmember Castellano?
Sure. I
Did you have your hand up?
have a couple of questions. You all have other vacation rental properties in Arcata and Humboldt County.
Yes, in Arcata we have a house on the corner, a little one, and that's an Airbnb. We have another 4-plex rental, and then we have a rental over the garage. Coincidentally, the one over the garage next to us.
Is it okay if I'm here too? If
Sure,
you're
yeah.
going to ask us questions?
Yeah,
Thank you.
Of course.
Yeah, 2 of those people have 4 cars,
Great.
and they're long-term couples.
And
Anyway,
then,
so yes, we do
okay.
have some other rentals.
And then you mentioned that you had planned for the for rental by nurses, in
Yes,
terms of the
fact.
furnishing?
No,
What happened to that plan?
The people that we bought the property from rented to nurses.
Because they were too elderly.
They were
gals
nurses.
That were nurses.
And that's
Okay.
what happened.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I've just one question for the city attorney, just related to the appellant's lawyer's statement. Just in terms of their attorney mentioned that we're not beholden to the decision of the planning commission, and so in relation to that, if council were to choose to do so, we could also move forward with only allowing like one vacation rental, for instance.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Moulton?
Thank you. My question is for the appellant, actually. And I don't know if this is totally appropriate, but I'll ask it anyway. If option K is the decision that comes out tonight and you're only allowed to have 3 vacation rentals, what would you do with the other 2 rentals?
We don't know.
Okay. I don't, I mean, obviously we can't,
Our goal is to have 5 Airbnb units, which was approved under the old ordinance, and staff recommended that to the Planning Commission. And so that's what we feel we are entitled to.
Understood. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Fernandez?
Thank you. Having talked with staff, you heard some of our questions, certainly a couple of mine. And when they had talked about having an application that was counter complete, there was no follow-up from you when it was found out that it was incomplete later on. They said that they had wrote in detail, you would receive notification, but that there was no follow-up. So why was it then until January 26th?
Is this a question for
Yes.
us? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, all the
for the
questions
appellant.
right now
As I
are for
explained
you.
to the Planning Commission, we absolutely did not know that we were operating without a license. In 2024, we paid the fee, we filled out the application with our property manager, and that's all you have to do in Arcata. And we have one Airbnb in Arcata, so that was our experience. And the same with the county. We had one in the county, and that was our experience. So then we came to the city of Eureka and found that it wasn't just simple like that. You had like 5 different departments that reviewed your application: finance, building, public works, planning, the building department, the engineering department. It got circulated to all these different departments. And so I got a letter from planning that said the floor plan that I had submitted was not acceptable. The site plan that I had submitted was not acceptable. And there was something about the unlocked gate that the prior owners had, been told by the city. That's what they told us when we bought the property, that the city said, just, block that 5-foot thing on the north side. And so I didn't follow through with that. I put it in the file and I completely forgot about it. And I didn't think that letter meant that we would never be permitted. So it was just like this fell through the cracks. And the only way we found out that we were not permitted is because the group that's sort of the spyware that figures out who's licensed and they look at who's on Airbnb made that connection. And that's when staff reported to us, and we hadn't heard from staff for like 10 months, and never a follow-up that, your letter, we never heard back from you, anything like that. So we just operated. And then they let us know in December, January, that we were not licensed, and it was news to them, it was news to us. And then we worked really closely for about 3 months, very intensely with staff and the building department, and spent $35,000 to take an art studio and make it into a legal residential unit, and brought everything up, as well as the TOT, and came up with a plan to pay back the TOT as well. So we got everything in compliance under the old ordinance. And staff said, you're good to go. And that's what went before the Planning Commission. And it really, really surprised us that they came up with this idea that we were impacting housing when there's a housing study that says that's not the case. So I hope that answers your question.
It does help. And so, you have the payment plan for the TOT
Yes,
in arrears.
$14,000. $14,000. And if we get 5, we go from 10% to 12% TOT. And that's significant money for the city. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, it's fine. I did get your email, and I'll follow up with you later, but I'm sorry I didn't respond right away. So, hearing that, then there was, again, another incomplete application as it was between January and the implementation of the new zoning code. What was it that occurred there then that caused the once more incomplete application?
No, it was it was a complete application by then. We got in before the April 14th you're saying yes and you're saying no, but what happened is that we worked really, really closely with all these departments to get everybody to check off and say we're good to go. And we got in days before you passed the new ordinance. So we were grandfathered, but
okay.
Maybe they see it differently.
Yeah, I was going to ask if staff could clarify.
Yes, they
that,
can.
please.
Yeah, I
They
can
will
clarify.
now. Thank
So the
you.
application was generally complete, but we had done a site visit with her, and that's when we determined that the cottage wasn't legally permitted as a dwelling unit. So we said, hey, if you want to, she was going to take that out of the application, actually. And I said, if you want to include this, you have to get it permitted before the new regulations. So her and her husband definitely jumped on that and got it permitted.
Spent $35,000.
And, a couple days before the ordinance went into effect.
Okay. Thank you.
With the help of planning staff, we worked really closely with them, and they held our hands, and we got on it. It's just that, like I said to the Planning Commission, we should have been before them a year ago. We were just operating without knowing that we didn't have everything signed off.
Okay, thank you. Do we have
That's
any?
everything for me.
Thank you. Do we have any further questions from council at this time?
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. So seeing no further questions from council, we will open this public hearing. Is there anyone in the chambers who'd like to comment on this item? Come on up. Welcome.
Good evening. My name is Frank Gilmore. I live at 1025 J Street, which is kind of kitty corner, 2 houses down from their house. I've lived there for 75 years. I was born in the house that I live in now. And we have a major parking problem in the neighborhood. And really, that's my only complaint about anything. I could care less if they put 10 units in there, as long as they have parking. The house right next door to me was turned into an Airbnb. The lady put an apartment up over her garage and then rented out the front house to Airbnb. And we had people that would park in our driveway. I have a driveway, I'm lucky. But when someone else parks across it or in it, you don't have nothing. And I found myself parking down the street to get back to my house. And anyway, I think everybody needs to look at parking a lot more. They say that if they have 10 people there, that could be 10 cars. And everything in that neighborhood is almost all apartments. 2 houses down is a lady that lives in her house. The house next door to that, they rent out rooms. They have 9, 10 rooms they rent out. The house next door to me on 11th Street has 4 apartments in it. The house next door is now owned by a single lady. It used to be the Airbnb. And then the next 2 houses down on that side of the street are apartments or housing that is rented out. There's a 4 or 5-plex apartment on the corner of 10th and J. And then next door to that is another apartment building that has 6 units in it. And then the house right next door to theirs, they used the little house driveway in order to park because they take care of kids. And the people pull up into the driveway across the sidewalk, and I've actually seen people have to walk out in the street to get around their cars. So that's all I've got.
Thank you, Frank.
Thank you.
Welcome, Mr. Mattioli.
Hi, I am Mark Mattioli. Thank you for letting me speak. The issues have been well covered. I hate to even interrupt here, but I would like to say something nice about the two people who are the appellants. They really are very dedicated restoration folk. They took an old beat-up building and made it into quite something. Councilman Bauer really put his finger on it when he said it costs a lot of money to do that. And I'm told that they spent like $200,000 to renovate this property. And when you do spend that kind of money, plus the extra $35,000 that they spent to upgrade the little unit, about the only thing you can do is turn it into an Airbnb to make it work. And that's what they have done there. Anyway, let me continue my speech. I also own an Airbnb, and I pay TOT taxes, and they are substantial, and they are a great contributor to the budget here of our city. The state of California took away all of our property taxes, you may remember, and so we are left with sales tax, and here we are, a transit occupancy tax, which is there now, wouldn't be there before if there had not been a vacation rental. I'd like to make that point. So I've watched Chris and Kathleen renovate this building, and it's remarkable the things that they've done. They really have concern about restoration. As you may not know, that they they support, with the support of the Eureka Heritage Society, our Eureka Heritage Society, in 1993, they helped create the National Register Historic District that listed 161 houses in the city of Eureka that are qualify for this thing. That's the old green book you may have heard referred to before. So the work they're doing really is a labor of love. In the past, the two of them taught restoration at College of the Redwoods. It's one of the things they've done. So they know a lot about it. If you look at this building, if you ever had a chance to do so, they've done their very best to really make it a substantial, beautiful Victorian house again. They worked with the Swayze Theater, and they helped create a historic district, historic building there, which is now, of course, the. Is that
You
for
have
me?
30 more seconds. 26. Keep talking.
Okay. The Arkley Center. I better hurry up here. I came really to support the planning staff over here. They've done a good job, and I thought they made the points. And I would say that is where this should be. They should be allowed, as they were originally told, to get their 5 vacation rentals, which is what this has been developed for. The yard is set up.
Thank
That's
you.
Huh?
That's it.
Okay.
Okay. Yep.
I'm going with them in option B. That's all. Okay.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in chambers who'd like to comment on this public hearing? Seeing no one, we'll bring it over to Zoom. Do you see anybody on Zoom?
I see no one.
Okay, so we'll bring it back to council for a motion, a second, so we can talk about it. Councilmember Bauer.
I'll make a motion so we can talk about it. Option B, to remove condition K as required by the appellant and modify the planning commission's findings to allow all 5 dwelling units to operate as vacation rentals, with the addition that there be a maximum of 12 people at a time.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
Great. So we have a motion and a second. Comments? Councilmember Castellano?
Sure. I don't support the motion. Though I appreciate you making it, and I'm imagining that the appellants are aware of our regional housing needs allocation, and that the primary reason why the city of Eureka's numbers have increased so substantially is because of the cost of housing, the few number of adequate rentals available. And so, and the cost that this bears for local residents and taxpayers is really extreme in trying to implement this housing. And though, for sure, I have no interest in making you rent or create affordable housing to anyone, I do generally have consistently supported efforts that will further housing in general and increase the supply of housing for folks. I think there are some options for, shorter term rentals that could really suit your needs. Also, just to say, the appellants have spoken against affordable housing in Arcata, in other spaces. And so, I do think that, I just want to reiterate the need to really support affordable housing, in terms of the Building Bayside Better Coalition, in case folks were curious. But, housing is individually owned. And I respect private property, and we have a social agreement to ensure that the lives of all people in our communities are filled with opportunity. And that's why I'm here on council, is to fulfill that social agreement, which means that I'm going to continue to support options for people who live here. And I do think that there are plenty of vacation rentals, and I just want to say I also really appreciate the work you've done in terms of restoration and rehabilitation of properties and the care you put in your properties. I think that you're doing a good job as landlords and building owners, and I really respect your work in the community and the work you've done at the university and in other spaces as well.
Councilmember Moulton?
I'll make a comment. Thank you. I just wanted to speak to the idea of preserving affordable housing, like as a motivator, and just point out that any housing is more housing, and that one of the issues with being a crowded city that is really built out, that, believe me, we chew on how to get more housing in Eureka all day long. One of the issues is that people are underhoused, and people are overhoused, and people are in the wrong place because there is not enough places available. So if you make an expensive apartment available, a different apartment will come available, will open up. And this has been borne out in evidence in studies across the state and across the country. Any housing added adds affordable housing. And it doesn't really matter what the price of the actual housing is. It's going to open something up, as long as you are actively trying to make those things available in other ways throughout your community. You're loosening up the market. I agree we're not bound by the Planning Commission. Of course, do respect their work and their perspective. They work incredibly hard to try and put all the pieces together in our community and apply the laws fairly and for the best public good. But the appeals process is here not because we're here to catch mistakes. It's because there should be a level for when there are exceptional circumstances. And we've had a lot of exceptional circumstances come to council throughout the years when a decision was made all within the bounds and it was perfectly reasonable, but we saw exceptional circumstances. And I would just say that in this moment, I do not see exceptional circumstances, except that there are 3 vacation rentals on one property, and that's more than anywhere else in the city, that we deliberately passed an ordinance to make it limited to 1. 3 is an exception. 5 would be an exceptional exception. So I also do not support this motion.
Thank you. Councilmember Fernandez.
Yeah, I motioned for this so we could have the conversation, and I think as I had indicated earlier, yes, this deviates from the norm under the previous zoning code, more so under the current code. I rather like the idea of the 5 units for being rental, or sorry, the short-term rental, with a fifth being a live-on proprietor. However, with staff and city attorney unable to justify that, I'm inclined to improve the 5 units with a 12 occupancy maximum for the purpose that this is something that was worked on, or that this was something agreed upon at the time and worked on up through the change. And that's not out of any disrespect to staff, who sounds like all the way through the process did everything that they could to work with the appellants, as well as the planning commission, who's done everything that they can to find a way of splitting the difference, of compromising. So once again, what I would like doesn't seem feasible, but at the end of it, then would need to, from my perspective, defer to what we have already agreed upon with the appellants. So that is why I am likely to support this.
Thank you. Councilmember Bauer.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. This has been a long discussion, and appreciate everybody's time. I appreciate staff, of course, for all their hard work on this, and the Planning Commission, trying to do what they think is fair. But like Councilmember Fernandez said, kind of was agreed to, and I feel like it's a little unfair to change things midstream, if that's the right terms. I don't know. But I also want to point out, we've been working really hard on housing. There's no doubt this council has done its utmost to build affordable housing. We're doing it all over the city. But there are these kind of circumstances, these old houses that we still have a lot of them out there that need to be fixed up, and super costly. And I mean, I personally would like to build an ADU at my place, but I can't afford it. The cost of materials and everything, it's outrageous. So I do think that our current state of vacation rentals is under 2%. That's better than probably all the cities in California. I can't imagine what Trinidad is, 25%. But I think this is a special circumstance that it seems fair that the rules were the rules. We should follow what was there. They got it in time, and recognize that it is an expensive affair to renovate these houses. So, I think we can make this exception here. It's not really an exception because it got it in on time, but we do need all kinds of housing, and we're doing our best to build affordable housing. I don't think this one house is going to change. I'm not trying to be flippant or anything about this. Just I think this is an appropriate action to take, is to go with the 5 and recognize, Planning Commission's hard work and staff. But I think we should go with the 5 with option B. Unless there's any other questions, I'll call for the question.
I'd like to make a substitute motion.
Councilmember Castellano?
I move to hold a public hearing and adopt a resolution continuing to find the project exempt from CEQA and upholding the Planning Commission's conditional approval in part, while modifying the approval to implement option A, retain and revise condition K to clarify that 3 vacation rentals are approved and the vacation rental use for the remaining 2 units is denied. Do I need to read the whole thing? Sure, I'll keep without requiring any particular alternative use, providing the use is otherwise lawful, and revise condition F to establish a maximum occupancy consistent with the 3 approved vacation rentals.
I'll second. Can I make a comment?
Sure.
I just want to point out that I really appreciate the idea of like buying and fixing up these old properties, but the decision about what uses are going to be allowed does not remove that. It does not, take away their house. It does not force them to not use it for income. It mitigates part of a business that could have a serious impact on the neighborhood around, whether that's for parking, whether that's traffic, whether that is the availability of housing and affordable housing in our community, or whether it's community building. When we're talking about the impact on vacation rentals on neighborhoods, it's about putting a big blank spot in the middle where those are not neighbors and those are not people that you can look to and rely on. It's a business, it's temporary occupancy, and for all of those reasons, we are trying to like spread them out and mix them up so that you don't get these like clusters of non-residents right in the middle of neighborhoods. But they still get to keep their house and they still get to have an income property there. In fact, that's all.
Any further comments? Any further comments on the substitute motion? Please vote.
This is on the substitute
On the substitute motion.
Councilmember Fernandez?
Having already stated that there's no adults in the room with me, no.
Council members, 2 yes votes. Councilmember Bauer and Fernandez dissenting. It's a tie vote. The vote goes to the mayor.
Thank you. So this has been a very robust conversation. I appreciate all of the things that I've heard here today. I think both sides have made some really good points. I'm going to stick with the facts, and if there's something that I have wrong, please clarify. So what my understanding is that this application came in January 26th, prior to the April 2026 changes. That these folks do have a TOT payment plan in place, so they are catching up there. There is an opportunity to revoke if, in fact, this whole situation does not work out. Is that correct? And that currently in our city, we're at about 1.5% VRBO. And in California, or was it California or was it somewhere else? Where'd the 4% come from?
I think that was just
It's
general
the cap from Kristen. Okay, so generally. So considering all of these items, I'm going to vote on the substitute motion. I'm going to vote no.
So 2 yes votes, council members Bauer and Fernandez and Mayor Bergel dissenting. Motion fails.
Okay. So now
On the first
on the-
motion.
Now we need to vote on the original motion. Go ahead.
Did you want to add a condition to limit it to 12 occupants? Oh, you did already. Okay, thank you. And then also, could you just make sure you amend the planning commission's findings that the 5 units is not, or I can say it, is not impacting that general plan policy related to affordable housing?
So you made
So
the
moved.
motion. Okay. Okay, so we have a motion now, and this motion is to support motion B. Okay. Any further comments? Councilmember Fernandez.
Yeah, touching on comment that you made, Mayor, you had, I believe, indicated and staff confirmed that the permit could be revoked if the appellants did not follow their payment plan, correct?
That can happen outside of this, yes, if that's outside of this agenda item. But if that's something that can be revoked if they're not kept up to date on their TOT.
Is that something that we would need to put into this motion then, or is that
No,
something that would
that's
be expected?
It's expected and totally separate from this. But this, I think,
Okay.
what the mayor was referring to is it could be revoked if that 12 person capacity was not met or other conditions weren't met as it relates to vacation rentals.
Okay. No, I just wanted to make sure then that as part of the payment plan, that would be the case. Okay.
Thank you. So if there are no further comments, please vote.
Councilmember Fernandez.
Aye.
2 yes votes. Councilmember. Okay. I'll call the vote.
I don't know. I did vote
Roll
no.
call vote?
I voted no, but my button's not working.
Thank you. 2 yes votes. Councilmember Moulton, Councilmember Castellano dissenting. This brings it to the tie vote. Mayor Burgell.
Thank you. And for all the reasons stated prior in the prior motion, I am going to vote yes.
3 yes votes. Councilmember Moulton and Castellano dissenting. Motion carries.
Okay, thank you everybody for your stay with itness. We are going to take a 6 to 7 minute break and we will be right back here. All right, this moves us to the consent calendar. Welcome, pardon me. Welcome back, everybody. We're glad you're still here. This moves us to the consent calendar. Pardon me. All matters listed under this category are considered to be routine by the City Council and will be enacted by one motion. Pursuant to City Council Resolution 2011-22, if a member of the public would like an item on the consent calendar pulled and discussed separately, the request shall be made to a council member prior to the meeting. Unless a specific request is made by a council member, the consent calendar will not be read. There will be no separate discussion of these items. And I am not aware of anybody pulling anything. So if we could get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
So we've got a motion and a second. Please vote. And I would like to note that the housing element update.
Councilmember Fernandez.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm still here. With no other adults in the room, I vote yes.
4 yes votes. Councilmember Contreras Deloach absent. Motion carries.
Sorry, Councilmember Fernandez. It just feels like you're in the room. Okay, so before we move on, I do want to let folks know that the housing element update report and public engagement will be moved to our next council meeting in September. So that will be heard then. And that will move us to legislative action correspondence. Nothing this season? No. Okay.
Sorry, I have one.
Oh, Councilmember Castellano?
I have too many tabs open. I apologize. There is some legislation Oh, there it is. Okay. Moving through in Sacramento right now, SB 1125, the Water Rate Assistance Program. And I think I'd like to see us write a letter of support.
Councilmember Bauer?
Can I ask what it's about?
Sure. It's sorry, let me get back to the summary. It's just basically existing state law requires the State Water Resources Control Board to develop a plan for the funding and implementation of the Low Income Water Rate Assistance Program, and for it to include collecting monies to support and implement the program. It would establish a water rate assistance program, basically, and a water rate assistance fund in the state treasury.
Councilmember Fernandez? Do you have a thumbs up, thumbs down, or a thumbs sideways?
Oh, it's definitely a thumbs up.
Great, thank you. This moves us to ordinances and resolutions. Salary schedule update with Director Folger.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. As you know, the city's salary schedule is routinely updated and approved by Council as needed. When the salary schedule contains changes to executive salaries, it is a requirement that those changes are reported orally. This salary schedule reflects routine changes to the city's classification and compensation plan and current pay rates for positions, including the establishment of new classifications and pay rates, minimum wage adjustments, and previously negotiated and approved 3% wage increase that went into effect on July 1st of this year for all permanent city classifications, including the following executive positions: city manager, chief of police, assistant city manager, city engineer, and the directors of the following departments: Public Works, Development Services, Community Services, Finance, and Human Resources. In conclusion, staff recommends that the City Council adopt a resolution approving the city's updated salary and pay rate schedule for all regular full-time and regular part-time position titles and classifications to reflect these routine organizational changes, wage adjustments, and current classification pay rates. Thank you, and I'm available if you have any questions.
Questions for Director Folger? Councilmember Bauer?
I'm sorry if you already said this. These are all negotiated 3%, right? This is part of...
Correct.
Okay, just so everybody knows. Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing no one, we will open this item up for public comment. Is there anyone in chambers who'd like to comment on this item? Seeing no one, I will bring it over to Zoom.
I see no one.
Okay, so we'll close the public comment and bring it back to council for a motion in a second.
I move to adopt a resolution of the City Council approving city's salary pay rate schedule for all regular, full-time, regular, part-time, and temporary position titles and classifications, reflecting a previously approved 3% COLA, salary adjustments for some positions, and establishing pay rates for new classifications.
Second.
A motion and a second. If there's no comments, please vote.
Councilmember Fernandez?
With no adults in the room, I vote yes.
4 yes votes. Councilmember Contreras Deloach absent. Motion carries.
There may be one adult in the room.
It kind of makes you sound unsupervised. Like there's no
Aren't
adults
I?
in here.
So this moves us to reports and action items, the complete and Green Streets performance measure report with Project Manager Powell, with Mr. Willer, whose title is escaping me in the moment.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm sure you're disappointed to have me and not Brittany, but I'll try to do my best to run through this presentation efficiently and effectively. So tonight we'll be talking about reporting out on performance measures from our Complete and Green Streets policy. The policy went into effect in, well, let's see. In 2022, the City of Eureka's Engineering Staff and Transportation Safety Commission drafted the Complete and Green Streets policy with the primary objective of making the streets of Eureka safe for all modes of transportation. The policy was adopted by the Eureka City Council on January 17th, 2023. The policy's desired outcome is to create an equitable, balanced, and effective transportation system where every person can travel safely to meet daily needs and where sustainable transportation options such as walking, biking, rolling, and transit are accessible and convenient to all. This policy applies to all projects and phases. In practice, Complete Streets focuses on rebalancing a transportation system from made exclusive for automobiles and reprioritizing pedestrian, bicycle, transit users and includes persons with disabilities, seniors, and children. The policy states that cities shall apply a Complete Streets framework in all feasible transportation projects and follow recognized best practices produced by Caltrans, Federal Highway Administration, National Association of City Transportation, and more. The policy shall be applied to planning, funding, design, and implementation. It does not apply to emergency repairs or routine maintenance, such as pothole repairs and painting of curbs, that sort of thing. There are exceptions to the policy. If the cost of the accommodation is excessively disproportionate to the need, use, or other public benefit, if there is a documented absence of current and future need or demand, if there is a reasonable and equivalent project along the same corridor that is already programmed to provide the facility exempted from the project at hand. This city shall incorporate Complete Streets principles into appropriate manuals, plans, checklists, decision trees, rules, regulations, programs. As each document is updated, the city shall ensure that the work zone detour policy fully accommodates walking, biking, and transit. And we do that with all projects rather than just our transportation projects. We also ensure when there's transportation, traffic control plans for other projects, development projects, and such that all modes are accommodated. The city shall incorporate this policy and its goals and the vision into all project prioritization processes. Performance measures. The city shall be responsible for collecting, updating performance measures annually to comprise the data pertaining to this policy. The data shall be shared with the Transportation Safety Commission and the City Council showing progress made in implementing this policy. Performance measures were suggested in the policy and are reported on the following slides. Data for this report was collected from January 2023 through August 2026, and this report data will be made available on the city's website. So here's the exciting part. We put a lot of time and effort into trying to ensure that we bring in funding and that we're catching all modes of transportation when we do transportation projects. So in this case, we're going to run through the projects that we've had that have been since the inception of the policy and talk about some of the metrics that we need to report on. This project is the multi-movement improvement project. So this is the project primarily was H&I Street is what stands out to most people, where there was a conversion from 3 lanes to 2 lanes on both H&I and created an opportunity for a buffered bicycle facility where no bicycle facilities had been previously. There was new sidewalk created, about 4,340 square feet. There was 3 lane miles paved, including new buffered bike lanes and existing bike lanes. There were 240 new truncated dome locations installed, 75 restriped crosswalks, 108 short crossing or bulb outs, as you may have heard them called, 8 rectangular rapid flashing beacons, and 10 improved transit stops. So as you can see, it's a mix of improvements that not only accommodated additional users, but it also created a more safe environment for pedestrians, cyclists, and also for vehicles. So looking at all the modes of transportation, including transit, where there's been improvement to the transit stops. Each one of these I'll kind of touch on the funding. In this case, is funded by a planning grant initially, a sustainable transportation planning grant, which was followed with a successful highway safety improvement program grant that brought funds to the table. And then there was also some grant funds from, there was also transportation general funds that were applied to this project. Pavement Rehabilitation 2023, which is completed in 2024. This project is our annual paving street maintenance project, funded by our Measure H dollars. So this is our general fund transportation funds. This included paving in Old Town and Fairway Drive. There were 1.5 lane miles of enhanced bike lane separated with flexible posts. That's on Fairway Drive. There were 2 lane miles of paved bike lane on Fairway as well. New sidewalk, new truncated dome locations. So those are accessible crossings at crosswalks. So you see these kind of individual matrix, but it really is like more of like when you do restripe a crosswalk, you're improving the accessibility at those crossings as well. This included motorcycle parking in Old Town as well. Pavement Rehabilitation 2024, completed in 2025. This one was funded by both an HSIP grant and by our general fund for transportation. This included Myrtle Avenue and H Streets, 4 lane miles repaved and restriped, 2 lane miles of enhanced bike lanes, which the enhancement being the buffered bike lane. Those buffers were partially on Myrtle and then on H Street. 26 restriped crosswalks, green MMA paint for bike lanes at intersections. That's the very bright paint you see there in the photo in the presentation. Updated school signs, 8 rectangular rapid flashing beacons, and 8 improved transit stops. Pavement Rehabilitation 2025, which was completed in 2026, funded by HSIP and General Fund. So again, we have some grant funds, and we also have our General Fund for transportation. F Street, Boone Street, McCullens, and Fairfield. About 1,000 lineal feet of new sidewalk, 6 lane miles repaved, 3.5 lane miles of shared bike lane, in new shared bike lane installed, 148 new truncated dome locations, 37 restriped crosswalks, 17 shortened crossings, those would be the bulb outs again, 14 upsized stop signs, and 4, including 4 with LED flashing around the outside of the stop sign. California and West Del North Street, LID. This is a project that was funded through wastewater, where we were able to do a water quality installation at this location, California and West Del Norte. So this includes 60 linear feet of new sidewalk, new truncated domes, bulb outs, new crosswalk, and RFB protected for the crossing. So this is a little bit of a green streets element to it, where we haven't talked about that. We'll get to that a little bit further in the presentation, but creating an area for water quality treatment where stormwater can infiltrate into the basin, shown in the photo. C Street Bike Boulevard, I'm sure you're aware of this project. This was funded by the Active Transportation Program, created about 935 lineal feet of new sidewalk, 2.8 lane miles of repaved with new bicycle boulevard, 93 new truncated dome locations, 46 new striped crosswalks, 17 shortened crosswalks, 12 rectangular rapid flashing beacons, 268 square feet of green bike paint, 12 steer planner traffic barriers, and 8 radar feedback signs. And then a more recent project funded the Halverson Park Trail Maintenance Project, which is nearly complete out there currently. This is funded by general fund dollars, where that trail was in very bad condition, a lot of uplift due to tree roots, an opportunity to not only maintain the trail by taking care of all those uplifted areas, but also to widen it and create a full Class 1 trail standard for width, which is, it's looking pretty great out there. So that was about a half mile of enhanced trail. Here you see a spreadsheet that captures all of that and summarizes it. Again, all this information we're going to put up on the city website for people to be able to noodle through. You'll notice one thing to take notice of is exceptions. There are no exceptions accounted for in the projects that are listed here. During part of our through most of our process, through part of the process, I should say the later half, we have a bike plan that was implemented, a bike master plan, which outlined the bike network, a very community oriented and intensive process where we identified what the bike network in Eureka would look like. So in some cases where every street, you might not want to have a bike facility on every single street in the city. This gave us an opportunity to say, hey, we have this bike master plan to fall back on. So we don't show any exceptions granted for this, mostly due to that, and then also due to the fact that we do have many of the projects just didn't need an exception because they were already accounting for all the different modes of transportation. Planning is a part of it. This is pretty brief, but again, we did the Eureka bike plan in 2024. The intent of that was to improve safety and mobility for bicycle travel and provide a framework for developing and improving bike facilities. The Complete and Green Streets policy was used as a supportive document and guide for developing the bike plan. We've had 3 walk audits in the last few years, a walk audit in 2023 in Old Town, and this in 2025 in Henderson Center, and then a community walk at Sunset Heights Planning, which is in this last year. The 23 and 25 walks were done through in partnership with HCOG, where we brought in a consultant, Dan Burden, who led these well-attended walks through town where people were able to kind of get a feel for what experts feel like, what's a good walkable community. So we were able to take that feedback and also provide an opportunity to get community members to weigh in on the walkability of the city. Currently, we're in a partnership with HCOG for a regional Vision Zero action plan that is really focused on safety. That would be safety for all users, whether that's pedestrians, cyclists, vehicles, any users of the streets. So that's a big part of this whole Complete and Green Streets process is safety. The green portion of Complete and Green Streets, we have street trees slow traffic by making a street appear more narrow. They beautify as well. We've had 131 street trees planted since 2023. That's really a combination of the city working with Keep Eureka Beautiful or property owners to install street trees in locations. In addition, there were 126 street trees planted along Broadway between Herrick and Truesdale by a Caltrans project. So while we didn't put those street trees in, the city will be taking maintenance for those, and it was a part of the planning of that effort. So looking forward, we have projects that we're working on right now that will be implemented hopefully in the next couple of years. Beta Zoo Trail, the G Street Bike Boulevard, Humboldt and Hawthorne Bike Boulevard. All 3 of these projects have funding, most of the funding identified for them. Beta Zoo we're still working through, but for the most part, funding's in place. The same with both of these trails, Cooper Gulch Trail and L to M Trail. These projects are both funded through the Link Housing project. There's 25 locations throughout the city where there will be transit improvements to bus stops within the city of Eureka. That's also funded by Link, and so that's in partnership with the city where I identified those locations and where that could really benefit the city. So those are on the books for the next year. And then another housing project, the Sunset Heights Phase 1 improvements will include pedestrian hybrid beacons, crosswalk striping, ADA sidewalk upgrades, curb ramps, RRFBs, transit stop improvements, and concrete bus pads. So those are on the outlook there. And with that, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you for that report. Do you have any questions? Councilmember Castellano?
Yeah, thank you. I was just kind of curious, and I appreciate the moving forward perspective. Like, so much of our work has been grant funded, and I was kind of just doing a little research on what are the grants that are coming up, right? And are we planning to apply for the HSIP Cycle 13?
Yes, we're working on an application currently.
Awesome. That's so exciting. Yeah, and I just want to say you're doing an amazing job in succeeding in attaining these grants that are funding this work, because it wouldn't happen without a lot of that funding, just bringing money in from outside the area. So thank you.
Yeah, and I would just say, it's our staff. They're awesome. They've done a great job throughout the years, being able to put a lot of effort into making successful grant applications. So we're lucky to have such a good staff.
Any other questions, comments, or concerns? So I do have a question. So on the streets, you had completed streets. So can you tell me, for 2026, can you tell me what streets are slated for the rest of this year?
Yes. So our
C Street. I mean, not C Street. In front of the Patsy
Second
Klein's.
Street.
In front of.
Yeah. So we have our pavement rehabilitation project for 2026 is it just went out to bid last week or on Sunday of this week. That project includes work to complete the paving on Harris Street. I think we did the first section of it, kind of the western end of it. So now we're going to continue that portion. We also have in 2nd Street in Old Town between Commercial and C Street. So that whole section will be getting rebuilt. It's in very bad condition. That'll be more of a full rebuild where there has to be a lot of dig outs and building back up the roadway structure in order to make that roadway be in a condition where it'll last for as many years as possible. And then the other street is N Street between, I believe it's 6th Street and 14th. That one's it's very poor condition and is definitely in need of some work.
Whoa. What about G Street?
G Street is also on the docket. It's
just checking.
G Street Bicycle Boulevard, as was noted in the presentation, is an upcoming project. Yes.
Great. So for the public that's been calling me about Commercial to C Street, the full rebuild will begin mid-October. When?
We should be, so we've just put it out to bid. We'll have about 3 to 4 weeks of the bidding process. We'll have to award it here at council and then get under contract, get a contractor on board. So the hope is, within, if we're mid-August right now, we'd be looking end of September, October.
Great. You heard it here first. Thank you, sir. Councilmember Bauer.
Yeah, I hear from a lot of people about Harris, people speeding. I know, they're saying not enough enforcement. How about speed bumps? Speed bumps aren't possible on that street, correct?
It's not one of the locations that speed bumps would necessarily be looked at for a recommendation, as it's a pretty it's one of our 2 busiest streets, has the highest volumes on there. It's considered an arterial. So from that standpoint, it wouldn't be one that we'd necessarily look at speed bump as the first option. We'd look at other options as far as physical infrastructure before speed bumps.
Okay. I hope they're listening, but thank you. And what was my other question? Darn it. I forgot. Well, I just want to thank you guys. Oh, and I appreciate the lighting changes that have been made, like on Myrtle, the turn signals are differently timed. I think that's who's doing that work?
Jay Wardabor, our transportation project manager. We've made a couple changes where, rather than, which is a pretty commonplace where the 2 turning motions go at the same time, where that's no longer, they have to go one at a time, which is certainly less stressful, I think.
Yeah,
than previously.
And thanks for all your hard work on this. Appreciate it.
Okay. Anyone else? Great. Well, I too appreciate your work, sir, and I've seen so many improvements just in the last, 5 or 6 years. It's been incredible. Well, since Measure H. So, Thank you. And with that, we'll move on.
Public comment.
Oh, I'm sorry. Would anyone from the public care to comment on this item? Seeing no one in chambers, do you see anybody on Zoom?
No one on Zoom.
Great. So that was receiving a report, so we will move on to future agenda items. Councilmember Castellano?
Let's see. I've been doing just a wee bit of research on water rates it, right? You know, there's been talk of just affordability and what we can and can't do, what is and isn't possible. And one of the things that is possible is looking at some kind of opportunities for utility assistance in-house for water and sewer specifically. You know, and we had some really successful programs during the pandemic. I think it'd be great to sort of review those, and then also look at things like a hardship and crisis assistance fund, which would be similar to what we did during the pandemic. Roundup option for utility bills, where people can make voluntary contributions to support utility rates for their neighbors. Water efficiency programs, so basically affording people, you know, helping people just be more efficient with their water use, reducing rates, and then looking at a comparison of the city of Alhambra's water rate assistance program. So anyway, just sort of maybe a report on what options might be available for utility assistance. I'd be interested in having brought back.
Thumbs up, thumbs down. Great. Okay. Anything further on that note? No. This moves us to city manager reports with City Manager Slattery.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight we have Chief Stevens here. We had our quarterly Citizen Oversight on Police Practices Board in early August, and he's here to, late July, I'm sorry. And he is here to provide his quarterly report on EPD statistics.
And I'm sorry, before you get started, as a point of order, it is 9:11, and you're probably going to go a little bit over, so should we extend the meeting now?
Oh, I can knock it out in 19 minutes.
You can knock it out in 19 minutes?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, Chief Stevens, thank you.
It matters how many questions you have, so. All right, good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight, I'm just going to present our quarterly report that we presented to the COP Board in July. This thing always gives me trouble at the beginning. There we go. Yeah. All right, our 911 calls into our dispatch center dropped this last quarter compared to 2025. Our non-emergency calls went up slightly over the same period. Year to date, though, I do want to note that everything is down a significant amount. Calls for service are still down for the year and down slightly for the quarter. Also initiated activity fell slightly this quarter. We have had a lot of stuff to go on this quarter, vacation starting, school ending, things like that. So all that plays a role into how we are able to police. Total traffic stops are still up, 42% for the year, 42% for the quarter, which is in line with our mission right now, being out there, being proactive and addressing issues on our roadways. Just a graph to show how the calls for service have fallen over the last 5 years or 4 years. The darkest yellow line at the bottom is 2026. And then our officer-initiated activity, just a visual on how that's gone up. 2025 is a light green line with just under the yellow line there, so it's been consistent for the last 2 years. Traffic stops, you can see it's increased, significantly over 2025 as well, but definitely over the coming out of the pandemic years of 22, 23. Total cases, we took 2%, almost 3% more this quarter, however, still down for the year. Our felony arrests dropped just slightly, and our misdemeanor arrests went up significantly by 11%. And trust me, these numbers are correct. Commander LaFrance did them, but our traffic collisions are exactly the same. Our criminal collisions are exactly the same, but they are down 5% for the year. Our DUI arrests are down just 2 this quarter, and citations are down 9%. Our mental health calls went up by 4 calls for service over the same time last year. However, our 5150 holds went down significantly, and our diversion rate went up significantly. So I want to just contribute this to not only the good work we do in-house with the training and everything we do for dealing with mental health calls for service, but this is a true reflection of the partnership with CARE, their 7-day-a-week now relationship that we have with them and our community. And just it's been a godsend for the patrol officers out there dealing with those that need help in crisis to be able to call them, have them take that workload off of the officers and get them places and resources they need. It just shows the mental health calls for service graph. It's kind of interesting over all these years. You can see how it ebb and flows almost exactly the same for each month. And if somebody could ever figure that out, it'd be nice to evaluate that. So any questions on stats for the month? Yes.
I was just, sorry.
Councilmember Castellano.
I'll talk quick. I was just curious about the increase in misdemeanor arrest. And then also just kind of curious, I feel like vehicle break-ins have gone down over the last 10 years. And I know that wasn't on this report, but is that true?
I would have
from my
to pull,
experience, they have.
Yeah, I would have to pull definitely a different report for that and look at it. But I think overall, we're not seeing as many posts online about people complaining about their cars being broken into. We're not getting the calls for service. And I think that just goes down to the continual drop in the calls for service. The more that we're out there being proactive and being seen, the less likely it is somebody's going to try to commit a crime out in the open like that.
Yeah, that's my experience too. And anyway.
Councilmember, oh, I'm sorry. Councilmember Moulton? 19 minutes.
We're punchy. Did I notice that there was a peak of traffic stops of around like 1,200 traffic stops? It was several slides ago.
Oh, that's probably for the quarter. I mean, they're trying to do 1,000 traffic stops a month is kind of what the unwritten goal is for Command de la France right now. So they've been averaging around 800 to 1,000 a month.
Because you're going to get everybody in town at a certain point.
But you see the citations and stuff are not
right. Yeah, there's a lot of
directly to that. So there's a lot of education that goes on, a lot of other things that go on because of the traffic stops. Some of them are peds, some of them are bicyclists. So it's across the board of all traffic stops.
Boy, but everybody gets more careful when they see those lights, don't they?
It is having a little bit of an impact right now. Between that and the ghost car that we've put out there, the car with the puppet in it, as I call it, it is getting a lot of attention, but it's also creating some safety improvements on the highways.
I know, thank you. Okay. Sorry, I'll let you continue.
Okay, any other questions? Okay.
All right. So for our staffing report, currently I have one officer on the FTO program. He has about 8 weeks of training left. He's flying right through it. He's doing really well. We have 4 cadets in the current CR Academy. I have 1 entry-level officer in backgrounds, 2 dispatchers in backgrounds. Currently I have 4 officer vacancies as of this week with a resignation, and then likely 5 in the near future because we have another officer looking to go to another agency locally. Staffing questions?
Yep.
Councilmember Bauer.
Just real quick, how are the vacancies affecting morale,
Since we've gone to the 410, 312 schedule, it's taken away a lot of the mandatory overtime each month, which has been not only great for their morale and for their welfare, it's also helped my budget with the overtime. We've cut probably $40,000 to $50,000 a month right now from overtime. So it's not really having an impact there. It's just we need those extra bodies just to fill in some extra specialty positions that we have vacant right now and just to build up the patrol so that we can have extra bodies out there doing things.
Okay. Carry on.
All right. The last thing I just want to talk about a couple of campaigns that are currently going on. You've probably seen it. The first one is Together We Drive Change in Eureka. And the second is the e-bikes education, safety, and enforcement. So Together We Drive Change in Eureka is just a public campaign to share the information we have from our statistics when it comes to traffic collisions. We've been putting out stats each day of the week, on that day of the week for a little bit now, showing which day is the most dangerous to drive in Eureka per the traffic collision rate. And then trying to do a lot of education along with receiving information from our community through a survey that was created. I think we've gotten over 400 responses to that survey. So there's a lot of good information to go through there. And so when Commander LaFrance gets back from his training, we'll be going through that information and being able to then hopefully address some of those issues from the enforcement side, and then share that information with others to see if there's anything we can do to assist in some of these perceived locations that are causing problems. And then with the e-bike education, we're seeing a real increase in the use of e-bikes, e-motorcycles, e-scooters in the city. We've had a lot of complaints this summer with our parks and a lot of damage being caused by juveniles riding these types of devices in our parks. This is new for us as well when it comes to enforcement. When I went to the academy, these weren't there, and so we have to grow and learn. So fortunately for us, CHP has a great document, but it's like 80 pages long, so we had to take all that information down and try to come up with a way that we can educate and share with our community and the officers on the rules behind the e-bikes and e-scooters. So we've done that through a set of social media campaigns. Each of those different bikes, I think there was 5 total we put out, each had its own post, as well as a master sheet that has everything on one side along with a bunch of other educational stuff on the back. That sheet has been distributed not only through the press release, but also to Eureka City schools to be distributed then to the students and parents, hopefully this first week of school, so they can get that information. And then we created a laminated form for all the officers that have all the rules on there, all our tow authorities, everything we can and should do when we come across an issue with an e-bike and a rider. So we're just one day probably away from a catastrophic event after watching a lot of these things take place around the city. And that's what we're trying to avoid, or at least put people on notice that you are accountable for your actions and your kids' actions. If you buy them something that they're not allowed to ride and then they get injured and or injure somebody else, that you can be held liable for that, both in criminal court and probably civil court. So we really want to get ahead of that and keep that from happening. So that's why we're trying to do the education and the enforcement when we have to. Okay.
Questions? Go ahead. No, you go ahead. Councilmember Moulton.
No, I just wanted to appreciate the attention to e-bikes. I think people see them as sitting outside the law, and I've seen like straight up children just going way too fast, no helmet, no understanding of traffic or how big and fast cars really are. So I think that education piece, especially for parents, so they understand that these aren't toys, that this is potentially downright deadly. So thank you for that.
My question had to do with enforcement and kids and helmets. So is there, I mean, if we're out and about and you see, a group of 4 kids with no helmets, do we generally stop, or do we just generally kind of, depending on, I know you guys are super busy all the time because I've been out with you, but is that something we're proactive about, I guess is what I'm asking?
Yes, it has become a point of enforcement and a point of interest for officers on the street to deal with those violations that are taking place on the e-bikes. We're trying to get ahead of it. It's part of the campaign. So they have embraced that process. And so we're really trying to take the opportunity to stop those that are not, or that are in violation, and educate them or take enforcement action if we have to when we do see them.
And do you know, are any of the schools, I mean, I guess I could find this out, but are any of the schools going to be doing assemblies for education? Or do you know if any bike rodeos coming up that kids can like learn this information from?
Yeah, I'm not sure if any of the schools are. We do have a kind of a pilot presentation we put together. We ran it through St. Bernard's because they requested it. So it could be something that we look at expanding, and if there's an opportunity that presents itself at one of the schools in our area, then we could probably present that. I don't know how it would go over in a large auditorium with 100 kids versus, St. Bernard's was a very small group of kids that really was able to give us the feedback too that we needed to make the program better. But we would definitely be open to it if you had opportunities arise, and we have instructors to do that.
Great. Okay, thank you. Oh, Councilmember Fernandez, there you are.
Yep, still here. Thank you, Mayor. First, seeing some of those numbers, especially for the diversion rate and the mental health holds being down and the diversion rate being up, want to commend you for that and the work that CSET and you all have done in that capacity. The traffic stops, I think I saw that the citations were down as well, correct?
Yes, sir.
And so the traffic stops then, like you said, it could be a pedestrian, could be a cyclist, possibly a motorist. So then in those stops, is it mostly education? Like what's going on there if the stops are going up and the citations are going down?
Yeah, it's never really an issue to cite somebody, and it's always discretion on the officer's side. So the impact you have on somebody just because you conducted the traffic stop carries a lot more weight probably than the citation does a lot of times. Because if you give someone a break, then they realize how lucky they got, and then they take a second thought next time before they speed down Broadway or something like that. So it really is just that impact. They tell them what they're doing wrong. We talk about our collision rate in the city and trying to address that. So there's a lot of conversation that goes on, and just that. And then it's also the perspective of all the other drivers going by. When they see you have somebody pulled over, it has a deterrence effect in trying to get people to slow down because they see us working H&I all the time. And so, yeah, it's a combination of things. It's just citations is just something that it could be focused on, but it's completely up to the discretion of the officers.
Yeah, and then and I think you and Councilmember Castellano had also touched on the fact that arrests are down, both felony and misdemeanor, and so you had talked about a visibility or a presence, and how does that work? Because there does seem to at least be a little bit of a hole. I think you pointed to 4, potentially 5 openings, but it looks like staffing's trending positive as well. So how is that all coalescing in terms of maintaining that presence and that visibility?
Really, it's just the proactive professional work of the police officers that are on patrol right now and embracing the mission that Commander LaFrance has brought forward to be out in the field, be proactive, be seen, take every advantage you can to do an enforcement stop, to make a contact, and build investigations off of that. So I think the next quarter you'll probably see the arrests go up because I've just by listening to the radio and being out in the field recently, I know they're doing a lot more arrests, they're doing a lot more detailed investigations and carrying these traffic stops further and then turning them into probation violations, drug arrests, warrant arrests, things like that.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything further? Well, thank you for that most excellent report, sir. You have 3 more minutes. Was there anything left? No.
I'm good. Thank you all.
Okay. Well, I just want to remind people that school is in session. School is in session. So if you're still watching, please drive responsibly. Don't run over our kids, our teachers, or anyone else. And with that positive statement, we're adjourned.